Trapped in a digital prison and forced to duel for their lives. In the virtual world arc, Yugi, Kaiba, and the gang must face and defeat the Big Five and Noah Kaiba, or they will lose their bodies forever. And to make survival that little bit harder, a brand new way to duel has been introduced. Deckmaster duels. The rules for this arc are as followed. Each duelist picks a monster to be their deckmaster. It is placed in the deckmaster zone, where it is immune to everything. Each deckmaster has a unique ability. Deckmasters can be quick summoned to the field at any moment in a duel. If a deckmaster is removed from the field, the owner automatically loses. There are, however, some exceptions to this rule. If your deckmaster is tributed for the summon of a new monster, transformed into a new monster, fused into a new monster, floats into a new monster through an effect, or has an effect that lingers on the field, in those cases, the new monster becomes the new deckmaster, or the lingering effect stops the player from losing until the lingering effect ability ends. And so now we know the rules, I would like to invite you all to every single virtual world duel analyzed. Could character A have beat character B with some slightly different plays? Let's find out. To showcase the rules of the virtual world, a demo duel takes place. AI Kaiba chooses the Blue Eyes White Dragon as his deckmaster. Its deckmaster ability is, fusion monsters you control and any monster this monster is fused with can attack on the turn they are fusion summoned. Total Defense Shogun chooses himself as deckmaster. Its deckmaster ability is when an opponent's monster declares an attack, pay 1000 life points to destroy the attacking monster. And so, the demo duel begins, and Total Defense Shogun goes first. He draws. His opening hand consists of 6 mysterious cards. Total Defense Shogun ends his turn without doing anything. It's AI Kaiba's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Lord of D, 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Flute of Summoning Dragon, Polymerization, and a mysterious card. AI Kaiba summons his Lord of D to the field. He activates his spell, the Flute of Summoning Dragons. This lets him special summon up to 2 dragon-type monsters in his hand to the field. He summons out the 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons in his hand. Next, AI Kaiba Deckmaster summons his Blue Eyes White Dragon to the field. He activates Polymerization, fusing all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons together to fusion summon Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Thanks to Blue Eyes White Dragon's Deckmaster ability, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon can attack on the same turn it was fusion summoned. As well, it has now become the new Deckmaster. And so, AI Kaiba moves into his battle phase and attacks Total Defense Shogun directly, attempting to go for game. However, Total Defense Shogun activates its Deckmaster ability. By paying 1000 life points, it negates the attack and then destroys the attacking monster. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is destroyed. Since AI Kaiba's Deckmaster was removed from the field, AI Kaiba loses the duel. Now I know this was just a demonstration, but out of interest, could the AI Kaiba have won this duel? Well, first of all, it's important to note that AI Kaiba didn't need to use Flute of Summoning Dragon. All he needed to do was just Deckmaster summon Blue Eyes and fuse it with the Blue Eyes White Dragons in his hand. Like, there's no reason he has to get all of them on the field to fuse them all together, so save that Flute of Summoning Karibo for a later play. However, that's not the play I think AI Kaiba should have gone for. What he needed to do was just keep those 2 Blue Eyes on the field alongside Lord of D. Go straight into the battle phase, attack with Lord of D, Total Defense Shogun uses his Deckmaster ability at the cost of 1000 life points to destroy it. The 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons then attack directly. Total Defense Shogun uses his Deckmaster ability 2 more times at the cost of 2000 life points, destroying the 2 Blue Eyes. Kaiba ends his turn here. He's technically done 3000 damage to Total Defense Shogun, although unfortunately now he has no monsters on his field, which isn't great, but hey, he's still alive and the duel continues. Alternatively, however, we could have forced a draw. Just summon the Deckmaster Blue Eyes to the field after we've done the attack with all 3 of the monsters as the final attack. Now, with only 1000 life points left, Total Defense Shogun pays 1000 life points to negate the attack of Blue Eyes White Dragon and destroy it. Total Defense Shogun loses the duel since his life points have dropped to 0. AI Kaiba also loses the duel because his Deckmaster was removed from the field. There we go, a draw in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's pretty rare. But at the end of the day, who cares? Let's now move into the proper duels. Before the duel begins, both duelists choose their deckmasters. Yugi picks the Dark Magician Karibo. Its deckmaster ability is Sacrifice. If you would take damage, quick effect, negate that damage, then special summon this card from your Deckmaster zone. Gansley picks himself as Deckmaster, the Deep Sea Warrior. Its Deckmaster ability is Reflector Hole. When a monster you control is attacked, quick effect, you contribute 2 monsters you control, negate the attack, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attacking monster's attack. And so, the duel begins and Gansley goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of 2 copies of Ashinigre, 3 copies of Ruklamber the Spirit King, and Premature Burial. Gansley sets his Ashinigre face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts, Baphomet, Dispel, Quick Attack, and Exchange. Yugi summons his Obnoxious Celtic Guardian into attack. Due to its effect, it can't be destroyed by battle with a monster with 1900 or more attack. Yugi sets his Quick Attack spell face down and then enters his battle phase. He orders Celtic Guardian to attack Gansley's set monster. It's revealed to be Ashinigre. It's destroyed. However, its flip effect activates. When flipped, the opponent must discard a card in their hand. As well, if this card was destroyed by battle, special summon another copy of itself from their hand or deck in face down defense. And so, Ashinigre's flip effect causes Yugi to discard a card. He discards Exchange. Gansley then summons the 3rd copy of this card from his deck into face down defense. Yugi, with no more plays, ends his turn here. It's back to Gansley, and he draws Eperia. He summons it into attack. Due to its effect, when summoned, Gansley can draw a card. He draws and gets Wall of Illusions. Gansley flip summons his Ashinigre on the field. Its flip effect activates. Yugi is forced to discard another card in his hand. He discards Dispel. With no more plays, Gansley ends his turn here. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Polymerization. He activates it immediately, fusing Gazelle and Baphomet in his hand together to fusion summon Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast. Unfortunately, fusion summon monsters can't attack on the turn they are summoned. However, Yugi activates his set Quick Attack. Thanks to this card's effect, now a fusion monster he controls can attack on the turn its fusion summoned. And so, Yugi orders Chimera to attack Eperia. Gansley, in response, reveals and then activates his Deckmaster special ability. Since one of his monsters is being attacked, he can now tribute 2 monsters he controls to send that attack right back at Yugi. He tributes Ashinigre and Eperia. Chimera attacks Yugi directly. Yugi takes the 1st damage of the duel. Now, with an open field, Yugi orders Obnoxious Celtic Guardian to attack Gansley directly. The attack is successful. Unfortunately, due to taking over 1000 damage, the effect of one of the Ruklamber the Spirit Kings in Gansley's hand activates. It summons itself to the field. Ruklamber has the effect while on the field during either player's turn. Quick effect, tribute itself to special summon as many monsters in your hand as possible, whose combined attack equals up to 2000. The monsters must be summoned into face-up attack. Yugi, with no more plays, ends his turn here. Now, I'm not sure why he doesn't do this, but Gansley could have summoned all 3 of his Ruklambers in his hand straight to the field. All of their summoning criteria were met. He could have had 3 monsters on the field now, so his Deckmaster ability would be instantly live. Why didn't he do this? I guess it wasn't a big deal not doing it. It didn't really cost him too much. And it's also possible he doesn't want to put too many of these monsters on the field because they're good little backups. If he's got them in the hand, if Yugi does manage to wipe his board and then attacks, he can just special summon this card to the field and then swap it out for 2 new ones using its effect. So it's a good way to sort of get around certain things. So I think it's fine that he didn't overcommit with this card. And again, now I think about it, I'm pretty sure later in the duel, if he did have 2 more monsters on the field, he would have had more tribute fodder for his powerful monster, his Rainbow Snake, and then with more attacks on the field, he could have probably gone for game on his final turn. We'll come back to this. I think he might have actually. It's Gansley's turn, and he draws Yowie. He summons it into attack. Since Yowie was normal summoned, its effect activates. Yugi must now skip his next draw phase. Gansley follows up this play by activating his Premature Burial. He pays 800 life points to bring back a monster in his grave. He brings back Eperia. Since Eperia was summoned, its effect lets Gansley draw a card. He gets Melkid the Four-Faced Beast. With no more plays, Gansley ends his turn. Now at this point in the duel, you've probably noticed that Gansley, while being able to get quite a few monsters on the field, he really lacks firepower. He's got no oomph in his deck to push for game. It's a reaction deck. He is beholden to the opponent attacking him, and that's how he gets his win condition. And this is a big problem with his deck. The idea that he probably should play more big monsters in his deck is kind of a hard one to actually say he should do, because if he plays high attack monsters, they'll need to be high level most likely for this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! High level monsters need tributes. Gansley wants to have as many monsters in the field as possible, so his reflector hole is always live. So this kind of goes against the philosophy of the deck. I also assume that Gansley's logic for using low attack monsters is because it works with his Rook Lambers effect. With more lower attack monsters, every time he uses Rook Lambers effect, he can summon as many monsters to the field as possible. With as many monsters on the field, that reflector hole is always live. Yugi can't attack. But the big problem with a reaction-based deck is, all Yugi has to do is just decide, all right, I just won't attack, then you don't have your win condition. I'll just keep drawing until I get some sort of out to the situation, and then I'll just win that way. So that's a huge problem. So what do I think Gansley should have done instead? I think he should have added a second win condition in the deck. Me personally, to fit with the theme of low attack monsters, so his Rook Lamber works, and he's got enough monsters on the field for his Reflector Hole ability, he should have played some low attack directly cards. This way we can punish opponents for their inaction, because we can keep doing chip damage every turn, hopefully eventually leading to victory. And if the opponent wants to get those monsters off the field, what do they have to do? They have to attack them. Those are my little theories. Anyway, getting back to the duel. It's Yugi's turn, and he doesn't draw due to Yaoi's effect. Yugi moves straight into his battle phase and orders Obnoxious Celtic Guardian to attack Eperia. Gansley, in response, activates his Deckmaster ability. He tributes Eperia and Yaoi to send Obnoxious Celtic Guardian's attack right back at Yugi. Yugi's life points are reduced to 500. Before Yugi can attack with Chimera, Gansley activates the effect of his Rook Lamber. He tributes it to summon as many monsters as possible in his hand to the field, whose total attack combined is 2,000 or less. He summons the 1,000 attack, Wall of Illusion, and a second copy of Rook Lamber, which also has 1,000 attack. With two monsters on his field again, Yugi is unable to declare an attack, as he will lose the duel as a result. And so, Yugi ends his turn. Genuinely, nothing else Yugi could have done this turn. It's Gansley's turn, and he draws Rainbow Snake Eingana. Gansley summons his Melkid the Four-Faced Beast into attack. He orders it to attack and destroy Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. Since it was attacked by a monster with under 1900 attack, it is successfully destroyed. Now, with a potentially troublesome monster off of the field, Gansley ends his turn. And fun fact, right here, Gansley could have won the duel. All he had to do was summon his Rainbow Snake this turn by tributing two of his monsters. He could have then attempted to attack for game by attacking Celtic Guardian. It would, of course, have failed, as Yugi would have used Karibo's Deckmaster ability in response to nullify the damage and then summon Karibo to the field. Not only that, but Obnoxious Celtic Guardian would also survive the battle, since it has now been attacked by a monster with over 1900 attack, so it's not destroyed. So that's really bad, isn't it? No, because we've baited Yugi to bringing his Deckmaster on the field. Now all Gansley has to do is Deckmaster summon himself to the field. He attacks the defenseless Karibo and destroys it. Now with no Deckmaster, Yugi automatically loses the duel. Huge misplay, Gansley. Unfortunately, I can't give you any maybe he shouldn't have done this because there was some threats on the field. There was no back row on the field. Yugi has so little cards in his hand. I think he doesn't have any cards in his hand actually. So there was no reason not to do this. And it just boggles my mind. It's a continuing theme that I'm going to get throughout all of the Deckmaster duels, where characters should be summoning their Deckmasters to the field more often. Yes, it is scary to do that, because if you lose your Deckmaster, you just automatically lose the duel. That's terrible. But sometimes they need to push for game. Fear, I guess. It will cost you sometimes. Regardless, huge misplay Gansley. Could have won this turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Rainbow Blessing. Believing that this card can't help him right now, he sets it face down and ends his turn. Hang on a minute, Yugi. What do you mean that card can't help you right now? You could have won the duel now. Just Deckmaster summon Karibo to the field, equip it with Rainbow Blessing, use Rainbow Blessing's effect to make it so now all of Yugi's monsters can attack directly this turn. Chimera attack Gansley directly and win the duel. Despite the fact Gansley's got two monsters in his field, he can't use his Reflector Hole ability because it can't be used on direct attacks, only when Yugi attacks monsters. So the question becomes, why did Yugi think he can't do it this turn, especially since Gansley has no back row on the field? Why didn't he just win? I would love to say it's because Yugi is new to Deckmaster duels and just doesn't know that you can Deckmaster summon at any moment in the duel, but the problem with that logic is that only moments earlier, he watched the Deckmaster tutorial, which lo and behold, taught him how to Deckmaster summon. So this isn't an excuse. In fact, the only reason he gets Kuriboh out on the next turn is because the Deckmaster ability forcibly summons Kuriboh to the field. This happens most likely because with that Kuriboh Deckmaster ability, you can negate 1 instance of damage every single turn, which would actually be really strong. So it has to force itself to summon to the field, so it only gets that once, which, I don't know, I feel like would have made Kuriboh even better. That'd been kind of cool. However, the really real reason I think is it's just more dramatic to do all this on the next turn. After the dramatic save by Kuriboh, I think, yeah, Yugi could have won this turn, but for dramatic effect, it's better to do it on the next turn. I am going to give a misplay to you though, Yugi. You could have won this turn. And fun fact, by the way, you know how Yugi was originally going to take the Dark Magician to be his Deckmaster in this duel? Well, if he had, he would have lost. Dark Magician's Deckmaster ability is essentially you can use a spell card's effect twice. This would never help Yugi throughout this duel. Yugi could never summon Dark Magician to push for game in this duel, and the only way that Yugi can win this duel is through Rainbow Blessing, which he can only do with Kuriboh. So yeah, if Yugi would have picked the Deckmaster he was originally going to pick, he would have lost. So thank you, Kuriboh. Anyway, it's Gansley's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Offerings to the Doom. He activates it immediately. By skipping his next draw phase, he can destroy a card on the field. He destroys Yugi's Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast. Due to Chimera's effect, since it was destroyed, Yugi can now summon one of its materials to the field in its place. He summons back Baphomet into defense. Now, for Gansley to get over the 1800 defense Baphomet, he tributes his Melkid the Four-Faced Beast and Wall of Illusion to summon Rainbow Snake Angana. This monster has the effect, if it is sent to the grave, destroy all monsters the opponent controls. And so, with a 2200 attack monster, Gansley enters his battle phase and orders it to destroy Baphomet. It's destroyed. He then orders Ruklamber, the Spirit King, to attack Yugi directly. If this attack is successful, Yugi will lose the duel. Now at this point we get a little bit of out of duel things happen. Little Yugi takes over the duel for Yami Yugi, since Yami Yugi is weak from the real world damage he's been taking from this duel. Little Yugi activates Kuriboh's Deckmaster ability. He nullifies Ruklamber's 1000 damage, and by doing so, Kuriboh summons itself to the field. With no more attacks left, Gansley is unable to win this turn, and so ends his turn. Technically, that's not true. Gansley can win this turn. All he has to do, Deckmaster summon himself to the field, attack Kuriboh. Not only is Yugi's Deckmaster destroyed, but he also wins via damage. Why didn't Gansley do this? Well, in his defense, Yugi now has a set card on the field. That's scary. What if that's Mirror Force? Attack into Kuriboh, get Mirror Force, we lose our Deckmaster, and we just instantly lose the duel. So I don't blame Gansley on this turn. On the previous one, when he should have done this, yes, he should have done it then because there was no threats. This one, I understand not going for game. Technically, he could have won this turn, but I'm not going to hold it against him. But technically, he could have won. Yami Yugi retakes over the duel, and it's the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight. Yugi activates his set Rainbow Blessing, equipping it to Kuriboh. This card can only be equipped to Kuriboh. By tributing the equipped monster, all your monsters can attack directly this turn. Since Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight is the only monster in Yugi's hand, he can summon it to the field without any tributes. Yugi tributes Kuriboh through Rainbow Blessing's effect to make Gaia able to attack directly this turn. Now, just before Yugi attacks and wins this duel, I have a problem with this play. And that problem is, why didn't Yugi just automatically lose the duel here? His Deckmaster has just left the field. It wasn't combined with another monster, tributed for another monster, floated into a new monster. So why not an automatic loss? In all honesty, I don't know, but I have a theory. If I had to headcanon why, well, the rainbow bridge that Kuriboh becomes lingers on the field until the end of the turn, meaning Yugi's Deckmaster is technically still on the field. It's just in the form of a rainbow bridge. This means as long as that rainbow bridge exists, Yugi doesn't lose the duel. However, if Yugi would have ended his turn when the effect of rainbow bridge went away, then he would have lost the duel since his Deckmaster has technically left the field here. So I guess that's why he didn't automatically lose. So you can add that to the rules, I guess. If a monster is transformed into an effect that lingers on the field, you don't lose the duel until that effect is gone, basically. Crazy. Anyway, Yugi orders Swiftgeyer the Fierce Knight to attack Gansley directly. Gansley, unable to negate the attack and send it back with his Deckmaster ability, since it can't stop direct attacks, has his life points dropped to 0. Yugi wins the duel. Before the duel begins, both players select their Deckmasters. Crump chooses himself, the Nightmare Penguin. Its Deckmaster ability is all face-up water monsters he controls gain 200 attack. Taya chooses the Dark Magician Girl as her Deckmaster. Its Deckmaster ability is once per duel during Taya's draw phase. Instead of conducting a normal draw, she can instead reveal the top cards of her deck, equal to the number of monsters she has in her grave, and add one of those cards to her hand. The duel begins and Taya goes first. She draws, and her opening hand consists of Ancient Elf, Petite Angel, Skell Angel, Offerings to the Doomed, Pot of Greed, and Mirror Force. Taya sets Mirror Force face down and then summons Ancient Elf into attack. She ends her turn. Why didn't Taya activate Pot of Greed? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe she just doesn't know its effect. However, the question you should be really asking is, will she ever activate this Pot of Greed? And the answer to that question is no. In fact, she is going to throw it away later in the duel. Imagine that, having Pot of Greed and just thinking, nah. Side note, I actually think set Skell Angel pass was the better first turn play. Like, you either got to draw a card if it's attacked into, and then even if it's not attacked into, you can flip summon it and draw a card as well. I think it would have been better, but it's not a big deal. It's Crump's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Giant Red Sea Snake, Cold Wave, Penguin Sword, Defender Iceberg, Penguin Torpedo, and Driving Snow. Crump starts by summoning his Giant Red Sea Snake to the field. Fearing Taya's set card, he activates Cold Wave. Thanks to this, now until Crump's next turn, neither player can activate or set any spells or traps. Now, immediately right here, we have a little bit of shenanigans. Technically, this card states, this card must be used at the very start of your main phase 1. So, Crump's summoning his Giant Red Sea Snake and then using this card, you're not allowed to do that. However, the only reason I'm not so mad about this is because had he just done this in the reverse order, things would have been absolutely fine. In fact, that would have been the safer way to do it at the end of the day. And again, I wouldn't be mad at that, except for the fact that the animators decided to physically show us the Yugioh card in all its glory, with its effect on display, albeit in Japanese, but when you translate it, it does specifically state, make sure you activate this card at the start of your main phase 1. So when you put it right in my face like that, I realize this really is a bad thing to do. So yeah, shenanigans. Should have done it the other way around. Crump enters his battle phase and uses Giant Red Sea Snake to attack and destroy Ancient Elf. Due to Cold Wave, Taya is unable to activate Mirror Force. Taya takes the first damage of the duel. At this point, it's revealed whenever a duelist takes damage, they will slowly be encased in ice. Crump ends his turn. It's Taya's turn, and she draws Fire Sorcerer. Due to Cold Wave, Taya is still unable to activate or set any spells or traps. Instead, Taya does something Yu-Gi-Oh characters always seem to refuse to do. She sets her Fire Princess monster in face down defense. Taya ends her turn. Now, I'll be honest, the only reason she set this monster face down is because it's a flip monster. There's a beneficial reason for her to set the monster face down, which, let's be honest, flip monsters that characters use, they do set those face down. They're very rare in the series, though, which is kind of unique here. The only reason I can think of the out-of-universe reason for why they keep monsters face up, even if they're summoned in defense, is probably just most likely so they can show off their monsters, or else everything will be set face down, and you see it for a split second when it's attacked, most of the time anyway, so that's probably the out-of-anime reason anyway. It's Crump's turn, and he draws Gust. The lingering effect of Cold Wave ends here. Crump, however, still afraid of Teia's face down, sets his Driving Snow and Gust face down. He then ends his turn without attacking. Fun fact, these two cards set face down, well, they're interesting things to set together. Why? Well, they have the exact same effect, albeit one destroys a spell or trap if a spell card is destroyed, while the other destroys a spell or trap if a trap card is destroyed. With this in mind, Gust is currently unusable. There's no spell cards on the field to be destroyed to trigger its effect or anything like that, so all the hope is relying on Gust being destroyed by a card and Driving Snow remaining face up on the field. Crump could have set one of his other spells on the field to increase the 50-50 odds, but what are the chances that he'll fail this 50-50? Let's find out, shall we? It's Teia's turn, and she draws Mystical Space Typhoon. She activates it to destroy one of Crump's set cards. With a 50-50 chance of hitting Gust and triggering Driving Snow's effect, she of course hits it and destroys Gust. Now, since a trap was destroyed, Driving Snow activates. Crump can choose one spell or trap on the field to destroy. He destroys Teia's set Mirror Force. Interestingly for this scenario, there is actually an old Yu-Gi-Oh adage, which is, don't blind MST. This is said because it's better to save it and react rather than to blindly use it and whiff. Just like in this situation here, because had Teia saved this card, well, nothing would have happened. So yeah, you never really know when MST is going to come in handy. Better to save it, but just in case. Teia moves to the offensive. She activates Offerings to the Doomed, which lets her destroy one face-up monster on the field at the cost of losing her next draw phase. She destroys Giant Red Sea Snake. Next, Teia flip summons her Fire Sorcerer. Its flip effect activates. It deals 800 effect damage to the opponent by banishing 2 cards in Teia's hand. Crump takes 800 burn. Wait, what? You're gonna banish 2 cards in your hand to deal 800 damage to the opponent? If you're pushing for game, makes sense to me. Yeah, go for it, why not? But so early in the duel, losing 2 cards seems much more like a punishment. Look at it this way, basically. If I could pay 800 life points to have my opponent lose 2 cards in their hand, you bet I'd do that. For me personally, card advantage is more important than doing a little tiny bit of damage so early in the duel, because as we're about to see, Teia's got rid of her next draw phase, she's only got 1 card in her hand at the moment, so why would you put yourself in that kind of situation? She probably shouldn't have. And she got rid of Pot of Greed for it. Teia enters her battle phase and uses Fire Sorcerer to attack Crump directly. Teia ends her turn. It's Crump's turn, and he draws Flying Penguin. He summons it to the field. He then equips it with his Penguin Sword equip spell. This card increases a penguin monster's attack by 800. Flying Penguin attacks and destroys Fire Sorcerer. Crump ends his turn. It's Teia's turn. Due to Offerings of the Doom, her draw phase is skipped. With only 1 card in her hand, her only option is to set Skull Angel face down and end her turn. It's Crump's turn, and he draws Bolt Penguin. Now, despite having Penguin Torpedo and Bolt Penguin in his hand, Crump instead moves straight into his battle phase. He attacks and destroys Teia's set Skull Angel. The flip effect of Skull Angel activates, allowing Teia to draw a card. She draws Magic Formula. Crump ends his turn. And here is where Crump could have won the duel. Had Crump summoned Bolt Penguin and then special summoned himself to the field, since, let me remind you, this is a deck master duel, which means you can special summon your deck master at any point during the duel, maybe he should have done that. Since Crump could have destroyed Skull Angel with Flying Penguin and then attacked for game with Bolt Penguin and Nightmare Penguin for game. Saying all that, I'm not going to give Crump a misplay though, because Teia had a set card face down. It's risky business. If your deck master is destroyed, you automatically lose the duel. It's a risky thing. What if that face down card was Cyberjar? Probably not worth going for, so no misplay for Crump here. However, he could have set himself up for victory for the next turn. All he had to do was summon that Bolt Penguin to the field, destroyed Skull Angel with Bolt Penguin, and then attacked with Flying Penguin. Taya would have been down to a mere 50 life points, which meant on Crump's next turn, he can summon that Torpedo Penguin. It can attack Taya directly. GG. Yeah, I'm going to call that a misplay to Crump. Should have been a bit more aggressive with these plays, and it's cost you. It's Taya's turn, and she draws Mahavilo. She summons it to the field, and then equips it with the equip spell Magic Formula. This card can only be equipped to a spellcaster type monster in the anime. While it is equipped, the monster gains 500 attack. But not only that, thanks to Mahavilo's effect, it also gains an extra 500 attack for every card equipped to it. Now, with a 2,550 attack Mahavilo, it attacks and destroys Flying Penguin. Taya ends her turn. And here we are again! Yet again, it's a Deckmaster duel, guys. You've got Deckmasters. Summon them to the field! Had Taya summoned the Dark Magician Girl to the field alongside Mahavilo, she could have attacked directly with the Dark Magician Girl, and that would have been enough damage to go for game. And this time, unlike Crump, there's nothing set face down that we could be wary of, so this is straight up, Taya, you could have won the duel here. Misplay for you. It's Crump's turn, and he draws Revenge Sacrifice. He summons Bolt Penguin into defense. He then sets his Revenge Sacrifice face down and ends his turn. It's Taya's turn, and she draws Graceful Charity. Remember how Taya had Pot of Greed earlier in the duel and she never used it? Well, guess what? She's going to do the exact same thing with Graceful Charity. Imagine two of the most powerful draw cards in the game that are banned in the real world, and you're just like, nah, I'd rather not. Fun fact though, had she used that Graceful Charity, then the top 3 cards of her deck she would have drawn are Michizur, Gemini Elf, and Polymerization. She could have either used Michizur to destroy any monster that outpowers Mahavilo, or taken Gemini Elf and summoned it. Used it to destroy Bolt Penguin, and then used Mahavilo to destroy the 2,450 defense monster Crump is about to summon out, which would have put her in a really strong position. Moral of the story, if you have draw cards in your hand, use them. Anyway, Mahavilo attacks and destroys Bolt Penguin. Since a monster Crump controls was destroyed by battle, he is able to activate his set Revenge Sacrifice Trap. He can now tribute the opponent's monster that attacked in order to special summon one monster from his hand. He tributes Mahavilo to summon Defender Iceberg into defense. Thanks to its effect, while it's on the field, other water monsters Crump controls cannot be targeted for attacks. Taya ends her turn. It's Crump's turn, and he draws Ocean of Regeneration. He sets it face down. Fun fact about Ocean of Regeneration, by the way, it's a real card now. In the real world, it's just come out as the time of this video. That's pretty cool. Crump summons his Penguin Torpedo into attack. He enters his battle phase and uses its effect to attack directly. After the battle, due to Penguin Torpedo's effect, since it attacked directly with its effect, it destroys itself. Crump ends his turn. It's Taya's turn, and she draws Michizur. I haven't brought this up just yet, but the Dark Magician Girl is sentient in this duel. Fearing Taya's safety, it decides to summon itself to the field to keep her safe. Unfortunately, she is too weak to attack over Defender Iceberg. However, she's strong enough that if Crump summons any decently strong monsters, they won't be able to attack over it. Unfortunately, with no other options, Taya ends her turn. And now that I think about it, I've just realized she didn't set the Michizur face down, but I guess she didn't need to, because if Dark Magician Girl is destroyed, that's the end of the duel anyway, so yeah. Also, I say no further options. She still could have used Graceful Charity, but saying that, the card she would have drawn with Graceful Charity, nothing would have helped her. It would have been Polymerization, Gemini Elf, or Happy Lover. Nothing would have helped, so it don't matter. But I will say, had she used Pot of Greed all the way back at the start of the duel, then I'm pretty sure one of the cards she would have got for Graceful Charity had she used it this turn would have been her Sage's Stone, which meant she could have won during this turn. Another misplay here. It's Crump's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. I assume this mysterious card was some form of penguin card. What's the reason why he's not going to summon it this turn? Well, it's because of the card he's about to use. Crump activates his set Ocean of Regeneration. This lets him special summon an aqua monster in his grave with 1000 or less attack. However, if he does this, he cannot summon or set a monster that turn. Crump brings back his Penguin Torpedo. He uses its effect to attack Taya directly. The attack is successful. Penguin Torpedo yet again destroys itself. With exactly 750 life points left, Crump's plan is on his next turn to use Ocean of Regeneration again, bring back that Penguin Torpedo, and attack directly for game. The pressure is on for Taya. And so, it's Taya's turn, and the final turn of the duel. Realizing she needs to top deck a powerful card to keep her in the duel, the Dark Magician Girl reveals and activates her Deckmaster ability. Now, instead of drawing like normal, Taya instead reveals cards from the top of her deck for each monster in her grave. She can then add one of those cards to her hand. Since there are 4 monsters in her grave, she reveals 4 cards. The cards revealed are Polymerization, Gemini Elf, Happy Lover, and Sage's Stone. Since Sage's Stone is a card that she consciously made an effort to put into her deck at the start of the duel, she takes it. Now, this is where things get wild. Taya activates Sage's Stone. Now, thanks to this card's effect, if the Dark Magician Girl is on the field, it lets her summon a Dark Magician to the field. However, it's been made a point of throughout this entire duel that Crump says, "You didn't put the Dark Magician in your deck, you're a bad duelist." That's the thing, right? So she activates Sage's Stone, and it appears as if the Dark Magician is summoned from Yugi's deck to her side of the field, which of course is absolute shenanigans. You can't summon a monster from somebody else's deck. But guess what? That's not what happens. Dark Magician being summoned from Yugi's deck is merely symbolical. You see, when you translate the text on the Japanese anime card, you actually see this is all a completely legal play. Sage's Stone's effect translated states you can only activate this card when there is a Dark Magician Girl on the field. Place this spell card in a monster zone and treat it as the Dark Magician until the end of the turn. So this play is basically like summoning a Dark Magician token to your side of the field. Meaning, the actual Dark Magician doesn't need to be in your deck at all. And that whole Dark Magician flying over from Yugi's deck into Taya's is just symbolical. The spirit of the Dark Magician is entering Taya's field. The spirit, not the actual physical card. So for me personally, no shenanigans here. Now, with both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl on the field, Dark Magician attacks and destroys Defender Iceberg. Dark Magician Girl then attacks Crump directly, reducing his life points down to 0. This is shown in the anime as both monsters attacking simultaneously together, but that's how it actually plays out. Taya and the Dark Magician Girl win the duel. As the duel begins, Joey chooses his Deckmaster. He chooses the Flame Swordsman. Its Deckmaster ability is it can reduce its own attack by multiples of 100 to increase the attack of another warrior monster on the field by the same amount. Note, I don't think that Flame Swordsman can reduce its own attack down to 0, so the max it can reduce its attack down to is 1700. My only evidence for this is on the final turn of the 2v1, Joey gave all but 100 of Flame Swordsman's attack points to Yugi's Dark Magician on the final turn. There wasn't really any reason why he wouldn't have pumped all the attack into it as like a just in case. Maybe he just thought, oh, it's enough, that'll be enough, I'll leave one monster with 100. But I'm just going to assume for this duel, the max he can reduce his monster's attack by is 1700. Johnson chooses his Deckmaster. He chooses Judge Man. Its insanely powerful Deckmaster ability is, during either player's turn, quick effect, pay 1000 life points, banish all monsters the opponent controls, then inflict 500 damage for each monster banished. Now, just like Joey's Deckmaster, it is possible that this insanely broken ability has some extra limitations that are just never mentioned. So it could be like, we have to go around a full turn until I can use the Deckmaster ability again. I can only do it under these certain conditions or something like that. I can't use it until so many turns have gone into the duel. This is never stated anywhere, so I am going to go under the assumption that what is stated is what it does. There's no extra effects attached to it. The only thing I'm going to say is that it is definitely a once per turn ability, because I'm pretty sure all Deckmasters are. And my evidence to support the fact that I think the Deckmaster ability is as broken as it is stated is that when Noah calls out Johnson for cheating in this duel, where he's manipulating the coin flips and everything, Noah never says anything about the Deckmaster. He just specifically states he's been altering your luck-based cards, and you feel like he would say, oh, he also buffed his Deckmaster. So I like the theory that people came up with that maybe Noah nerfed him after this. It's possible, but personally, I think his Deckmaster is as broken as it says he is. So with that all in mind, the duel begins and Johnson goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Hysteric Angel, Leading Question, Quick Attack, Defusion, Painful Choice, and Sinister Justice. Johnson summons his Hysteric Angel into attack, and then ends his turn. Now, Johnson's hand makes me laugh here because it's awful. He has 4 completely dead cards that he can't use because they all require a fusion monster to be on the field to be used. However, he has another card in his hand, Painful Choice. This is a very good card. Banned, in fact, in the real world. When activated, it lets you pick up the top 5 cards of your deck, show them to your opponent, the opponent picks one for you to add to your hand, and the rest are sent to the grave. Obviously, this card is better if you build your deck around it so that the cards that are sent to the graveyard, regardless of what they pick, you benefit from. But what's crazy to me is Johnson will never use this card throughout the rest of this duel. So imagine at the end of every single turn, I'm frothing at the mouth saying just use this card, just try and get something to your hand. And if you think, oh, well, I mean, if he's adding 5 cards, he puts 5 powerful cards for him to potentially add, and 4 of them go to the grave. He can't use those really good cards anymore, but he does get one good one out of it. That's true, but in that case, why put this card in your deck if you never plan on using it at all? Like, it's silly to me, so yeah, it's a misplay from me that he never activates it, and it's a continuous misplay for every single turn because he never uses it. Ridiculous. It's Joey's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gearfried the Iron Knight, Tiny Guardian, Panther Warrior, Swordsman of Landstar, Gamble, and Bottomless Trap Hole. Joey summons his Gearfried the Iron Knight into attack. He immediately activates his Flame Swordsman's Deckmaster ability, transferring 500 of its attack to Gearfried, making it now stronger than Hysteric Angel. Joey enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Hysteric Angel. Johnson takes the first damage of the duel. Joey ends his turn. Now, would it have been better for Joey to pump all of Flame Swordsman's attack into his Gearfried the Iron Knight here to do absolutely massive damage? Well, knowing how powerful Johnson's Deckmaster is and that it relies on lots of life points, theoretically it makes sense, but the fact that Johnson could use his Deckmaster ability in response to this and just wipe the monster, then you no longer have a Deckmaster ability anymore for Joey. That's a big loss, so it's actually a good thing that he didn't go too much on the first turn. But that brings up a very good point. Why didn't Johnson use his really broken Deckmaster ability to just wipe that monster and he would have won, he totally would have won. Now, in my mind, I can understand why Johnson might think letting the opponent destroy his Hysteric Angel was the right move rather than just using this Deckmaster ability. Why? Well, in Johnson's mind, he's like, let me think. If I use my Deckmaster ability, I lose 1,000 life points, but if I let him destroy my Hysteric Angel, that's only 500. 1,000 is more than 500. I'll go with the 500 plan. But if that's the case, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. There's so many more benefits you get than just life point advantage. He would have not only banished Joey's Gearfried, meaning Joey's field is now empty. Joey would have lost 500 life points due to his monster being banished. Johnson's 1,800 attack Hysteric Angel would remain on the field. And on his next turn, he can now push for game. How? Like so. It's Johnson's turn and he Deckmaster summons Judgeman to the field. He enters his battle phase, attacks directly with Hysteric Angel. Joey takes 1,800 damage, attack for game with Judgeman. Now, Joey can Deckmaster summon his Flame Swordsman to try and defend himself, but Flame Swordsman is weaker than Judgeman. Judgeman has 2,200 attack points, so that would be game. You just destroy it. This would have also worked if he attacked the other way around, as Hysteric Angel is also stronger than Flame Swordsman. And I mean, even if it did have enough attack points, he could just use his Deckmaster ability to just banish it anyway on the next opportunity. So, and let's be honest, if he didn't want to risk bringing that Judgeman to the field, because yeah, bringing your Deckmaster to the field is a very scary thing, we could just wait after we've attacked with Hysteric Angel, Go back to Joey's turn. He summoned some stuff. We can just banish that board, go back to our turn, then attack directly for game. There were so many different opportunities for game if he would have used his Deckmaster ability. Yet again, this duel is another case of people not utilizing their Deckmaster abilities efficiently in a Deckmaster format. Now, the only defense I can give Johnson outside of the fact that, oh, maybe he didn't want to take the extra 500 damage, is he does say at some point that people who are addicted to gambling, the best way to take advantage of them is to give them a full sense of security. Let them think they're winning. That way, when they fall hard and they lose all confidence in themselves. So that's his rationale, I think, for not like popping off straight away. But it doesn't make sense. You can just pop off and win rather than do all these extra steps. It's crazy to me. I'm so sick of saying this, but this Deckmaster, oh boy, they made it way too strong. But yeah, huge misplay, Johnson. You could have won. It's back to Johnson, and he draws Skellangel. With a completely dead hand, Johnson simply sets his Skellangel face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Rocket Warrior. Joey summons his Tiny Guardian to the field. He activates his Deckmaster ability, transferring 300 of Flame Swordsman's attack to Tiny Guardian. Joey moves into his battle phase and uses Tiny Guardian to attack and destroy Johnson's set Skellangel. Skellangel is destroyed, however, its flip effect activates, which allows Johnson to draw a card. He draws and gets Mystical Elf. Gearfried then attacks Johnson directly. The attack is successful. Joey ends his turn. Right, there's a few things with this one. First, it's pretty funny if you notice it, but Joey has exactly game here. If he would have put the remaining 1200 attack points on his Flame Swordsman into Gearfried instead of Tiny Guardian, he could have attacked Skellangel with Tiny Guardian since it's stronger, then attacked directly with a 3500 attack Gearfried for exactly game. Now, I'm not going to give a misplay because obviously Joey doesn't know how strong that defense mission monster is, so it's unclear whether he would have got over it. We know this through hindsight, so it's not a misplay, but it's fun to know. Yeah, Joey could have won right here. And of course, as we know, but Joey doesn't know yet, the Deckmaster ability of Johnson's Judgeman could have just banished his entire field, which would have really ruined his day. So in a way, it's good that he didn't go for this play, but that brings up a good point again. Are you ready to hear a broken record? Why didn't he use his Deckmaster ability here? He's only got 1200 life points left, so he can only use his Deckmaster ability once now. In my mind, that's probably why the animators did this. Get his life points nice and low so he can't spam this ability anymore. And obviously the reason why he probably did this is because he's trying to give Joey a full sense of security by letting him take the lead. But again, that's just ridiculous. But yes, if he would have used his Deckmaster ability here, he would have banished both of Joey's monsters. Joey would have taken 1000 damage and we would have been in a lot better position. It's back to Johnson, and he draws Polymerization. He summons his Mystical Elf into defense and then sets Polymerization face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Scapegoat. He summons his Rocket Warrior to the field and then enters his battle phase. Joey starts by using Gearfried to attack Mystical Elf. However, Johnson finally activates the quick effect of his Judgeman Deckmaster. He pays 1000 life points to banish all monsters Joey controls. Gearfried, Tiny Guardian, and Rocket Warrior are all banished. Joey takes 1500 damage. Joey ends his turn by setting Bottomless Trap Hole face down. Fun fact, Bottomless Trap Hole's ability is if a 1500 or more attack point monster is summoned to the field, you can destroy it and then banish it. This will never ever be activated for this rest of this duel because Johnson will never get a monster out with over 1500 attacks. So it's a great card. It's just going to be dead from now on. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Curtain of the Dark Ones. He summons it to the field and then uses his set Polymerization to fuse Mystical Elf and Curtain of the Dark Ones together to summon Camion Wizard. Since its attack is below 1500, Bottomless Trap Hole can't activate. Johnson activates the continuous spell Sinister Justice. This card allows fusion monsters he controls to attack the turn they are summoned. As well, if a level 4 or lower fusion monster inflicts battle damage, he will gain 800 life points. Camion Wizard attacks Joey directly. Since he inflicted damage, Johnson gains 800 life points. Johnson sets his leading question face down and ends his turn. Why didn't Johnson use Defusion to push for game? That Defusion in his hand is never going to be activated for the rest of this duel, and it has so many opportunities to work, and in this example, if he would have used it to split his Camion into its two fusion materials, he could attack for game with both. Obviously, the result would have been Joey summoning his Deckmaster to defend himself, but then Johnson also could have just summoned his Deckmaster to then attack and destroy Joey's Deckmaster. Which then brings up a very good point. Can a monster that is Deckmaster summoned be Bottomless Trap Hold? Maybe. Now, in the real world, Deckmaster rules state a Deckmaster summon doesn't start a chain, meaning the summon of the monster can't be interrupted, so Joey wouldn't be able to use Bottomless Trap Hole in the real world. But we're in the anime, so would this rule still apply? So since I can't prove that Deckmaster summons in the anime don't start a chain, I'm going to assume that yes, if he would have summoned his Judge Man to the field, Joey could have Bottomless Trap Hold it and won the duel. So Johnson not summoning his Deckmaster for the rest of this duel is now no longer a misplay. Okay? Okay. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Skull Dice. Joey summons his Panther Warrior to the field and then sets his Skull Dice face down and ends his turn. Now, Joey actually has two ways of going on the offensive this turn. Either summoning his Panther Warrior into attack, activating Scapegoat, tributing one of the tokens for Panther Warrior to attack Camion Wizard. Alternatively, summon Swordsman of Landstar, put all the remaining attack points of Flame Swordsman into it. Attack and destroy Camion Wizard. It's weird that he didn't do this as well because Johnson doesn't have his Deckmaster ability at the moment. He's only got 200 life points, so this is the perfect opportunity to push for game. However, the reason why he doesn't do these plays is explained by his inner monologue. He's worried about Johnson's set card. He assumes whatever it is powers up Camion's attack, which he correctly deduced, as Leading Question increases the attack of a fusion monster by 800 when it battles, which you can use set spell cards as quick plays in Battle City in the Virtual World arc, so you'd have activated this, the attack would have gone through, Camion Wizard would have gained 800 attack points, and then Panther Warrior would have been destroyed by the battle, which would not have been great for Joey. So, by Joey setting Skull Dice, he can instead react to Johnson's attack and attack boost instead, which is a good plan on paper. It just would be a shame if someone started manipulating luck-based cards. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Reinforcement of the Army. Johnson activates his set Leading Question. This continuous spell makes level 4 or lower fusion monsters he controls gain 800 attack when they battle a monster until the end of the damage step. And so, Johnson enters his battle phase and orders Camion Wizard to attack Panther Warrior. It gains 800 attack from Leading Question. Having predicted this play, Joey activates his set Skull Dice in response. This card lets him roll a die, and the result divides a monster's attack by the result. Joey rolls and gets a 6, which would cut Camion Wizard's attack from 2100 to 350, resulting in Johnson's defeat. However, the die suddenly rolls again, this time landing on a 1. Since 2100 divided by 1 is 2100, Camion Wizard's attack doesn't change. Panther Warrior is destroyed. Since a fusion monster dealt damage, Sinister Justice increases Johnson's life points by 800. Johnson ends his turn. Now, at this point in the duel, it is actually revealed to us, the audience, that Johnson is in fact cheating. He is manipulating all of Joey's luck-based cards to always result in the worst possible outcome. Now, we get a lot of misplays on this show. We also get a few shenanigans every now and then, but this is one of the actual few times in the Yu-Gi-Oh series where I can actually say, Johnson, you cheated. For shame. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Graceful Dice. He summons his Swordsman of Landstar to the field. He then activates his Graceful Dice, which allows Joey to roll a die, and depending on the result, he can multiply the attack of a monster with 500 attack by the result. Joey rolls and gets a 6. This would sextuple his monster's attack, resulting in a 3000 attack swordsman. However, yet again, Johnson cheats and causes the die roll to roll again. This time it results in a 1. Since 500 times 1 is 500, Swordsman's attack doesn't change. Now, despite Joey having absolutely nothing scary on the field and there being absolutely no reason why you'd want to do this now, Johnson uses his Deckmaster ability. He pays 1000 life points to banish Joey's Swordsman of Landstar. Joey takes 500 damage. Joey ends his turn by setting his Scapegoat and Gamble face down. This huge misplay from Johnson is going to cost him the duel. Not just for the fact that he should save this ability for a more devastating field to wipe, but by leaving a 500 attack point monster on the field, he can slam his monster into it and get an attack boost to do massive damage. He's lost that ability now because he's got rid of his monster, and obviously with Scapegoat coming onto the field, that's going to block him. Obviously he doesn't know he's got Scapegoat, but still, it's ridiculous. So yeah, now with only 800 life points, he can't use his Deckmaster ability again for essentially the rest of the duel. So let's wait and see when that Deckmaster ability would have been really handy to have later. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets a second copy of Polymerization and One-Eyed Shield Dragon. Now, since Johnson has at least 6 cards in his hand, while Joey has 2 or fewer, Joey activates his set Gamble Trap. This lets him flip a coin. If he calls the coin flip right, he can draw until he has 5 cards in his hand. But if he calls it wrong, he loses his next turn. Joey calls heads. He was correct, but Johnson cheats at the last second and changes it to tails. Since Joey called the result wrong, he doesn't draw any cards and will now have no next turn. Joey makes a defensive play by activating his set Scapegoat to summon 4 sheep tokens to the field into defense. Johnson activates his reinforcement of the army to add a level 4 or lower warrior monster from his deck. He adds Armail. He activates Polymerization to fuse the Armail and One-Eyed Shield Dragon in his hand together to make Dragoness the Wicked Knight, another low-level, low-attack fusion that Bottomless Trap Hole won't work on. Johnson moves into his battle phase and attacks and destroys 2 of the sheep tokens with Camion and Dragoness. Johnson ends his turn. So, knowing that Joey is gonna not have a turn on his next turn, we're gonna go right back onto Johnson's turn. Why didn't we push for game here? The right move was, after destroying those 2 sheep tokens, activate Defusion to summon Armail and One-Eyed Shield Dragon to destroy the remaining 2 sheep tokens. We skip Joey's turn, go back to our turn, attack directly with Dragoness, we win. In case you're unsure, yes, defused monsters at this point in the anime can attack the turn they're summoned after defusion. We actually see an example of this later in the series where in Yugi's duel against Noah, he defused Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and attacked with all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in the same turn. But it doesn't make any sense, so I have no idea. He's just a terrible duelist. Anyway, it's Joey's turn. Oh wait, no it isn't, it's skipped due to Gamble. We're back to Johnson, and it's the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. Let's just say this mysterious card is another copy of Painful Choice. Why? Because he's never going to activate it. Johnson moves straight into his battle phase and destroys the last 2 sheep tokens with Camion and Dragoness. Johnson ends his turn. Why doesn't he just win the duel? Defuse your Dragoness. Put the 2 monsters on the field. Attack a token, attack a token, attack for game with your Camion Wizard. You win. You just win the duel. I don't understand. He hasn't done any of... Johnson, why are you a lawyer? You are one of the most embarrassing duelists I've ever seen. Not only are you misplaying to hell and back, and you have a tier 0 Deckmaster, but you're cheating, and your opponent just missed the turn, and you still can't win? Dead to me. Dead. Now, at this point in the duel, Noah arrives and calls out Johnson for cheating. He calls him an absolute waste man for manipulating all of Joey's luck-based cards. Which I think is kind of funny because, you know, if Joey would have got all of the results he was supposed to get, he actually got the best possible result with all of it. A 6-roll heads. And instead he got all the negative ones. And Yugi's like, it's very unusual Joey getting 3 terrible results in a row. Something must be up here. But if we went by the actual results, it would have been 3 perfect rolls in a row. And I guarantee Yugi wouldn't be like, Joey rolled 3 perfect rolls in a row. That's a bit suspicious. No, it would have been just like, that's Joey. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. It's just, it made me laugh. Anyway, fair play to Noah as he attempts to give Joey the win. But Joey convinces Noah to let the duel continue. Noah agrees, and so the duel continues. It's Joey's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets Burning Soul Sword and Arduous Decision. Joey Deckmaster summons his Flame Swordsman to the field. Remember earlier when I said Johnson might regret using his Deckmaster ability, which now puts him at 2 lower life points so he can't activate them anymore to destroy a really weak monster that didn't need to be destroyed by his Deckmaster ability, and he could have used it later to benefit him? Well, this is the moment. He could have used it now to banish Flame Swordsman and won the duel. Terrible. Joey equips his Flame Swordsman with Burning Soul Sword. Now, Joey contributes a monster to increase the attack of the equipped monster by the tributed monster's attack. The problem? Joey doesn't have any monsters to tribute. So he activates his arduous decision. Thanks to this card's effect, Joey picks up the top 2 cards of his deck. The opponent then picks one of them. If it's a monster, it's summoned to the field and the other card is added to Joey's hand. If it's not a monster card, both cards are sent to the grave. Joey picks up Shield and Sword and Goblin Attack Force. Joey, for a bit of fun, freely reveals to Johnson what the cards are in his hand. This tells both duelists that there is a 50-50 chance of victory and defeat for both of them. He asks Johnson to pick a card. Johnson correctly selects Shield and Sword. Joey asks,
"Are you sure about that?"
Johnson again correctly deduces that someone who asks, "Are you sure you're sure?" clearly wants you to change your choice, because if he'd picked wrong, Joey would have just instantly revealed the card and won the duel. Johnson bangs his hammer to officially confirm his decision. But Joey then lets out a little smirk. Johnson bricks himself at the last possible second guesses himself, and changes his decision to the other card. Joey instantly reveals it was the wrong choice. And so, Goblin Attack Force is summoned to the field and Sword and Shield is added to his hand. He tributes Goblin Attack Force through Burning Soul Sword's effect to increase Flame Swordsman's attack by the results. Flame Swordsman attacks Dragoness. Even with an 800 attack increase from his continuous spell, Johnson's life points drop to 0. Joey wins the duel. Before the duel begins, each player selects their deckmaster for this 3v1. Nezbitt chooses himself, Robotic Knight. Its deckmaster ability lets him quick effect send any number of machine type monsters from his hand to the grave to inflict 500 damage to the opponent for each machine type monster sent. Serenity chooses Goddess with the Third Eye. Its deckmaster ability is you can discard one spell to perform a fusion summon. Tristan chooses Super Robo-Yaru. Its deckmaster ability is when it battles, you can set one spell or trap from your hand, and if you do this, this card gains 1000 attack during that damage step. Finally, Duke chooses Strike Ninja. Its deckmaster ability is quick effect, discard 2 cards, activate one set spell or trap as if you are the controller. The rules of the 3v1 are a little bit different. Each duelist has their own field and life points. If a player is eliminated, their cards remain on the field. You can't strategize with your teammates, but something you can do is block any attack for a teammate with one of your monsters. This is quite unique, as tag duels typically you can only block direct attacks with your monster for a teammate, but being able to block any attack, it's an interesting ruling. And so with that, the duel begins and Serenity goes first. She draws, and her opening hand consists of Shadow Tamer, Witch of the Black Forest, Fire Princess, The Forgiving Maiden, Scroll of Bewitchment, and Bad Reaction to Samochi. Serenity immediately misplays by summoning her Shadow Tamer, a monster with terrible stats, into attack position. With no further plays, she ends her turn here. Right off the bat, if Serenity was pro Serenity, what could she have done different this turn to help out? Well, ideally, I would have liked her to build her deck a little bit better. She's got some wacky cards in here, which, I don't know, they never become useful throughout the duel, like Bad Reaction to Samochi and Scroll of Bewitchment. If she built her deck around those, it's fine, but she doesn't seem to have many of those cards. However, with the cards that she had, the best play she had here was to set her Forgiving Maiden with 2000 defense face down, or set Witch of the Black Forest face down, so that when it's destroyed, you could get another card when it goes to the grave. Saying all that though, I have seen people like Yugi summon some absolute terrible stat monsters into attack position, so you can't really blame her that much. It's Tristan's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Cyber Commander, Launcher Spider, Sangenjin, the A Forces, Double Snare, and Garma Sword Oath. Tristan purposefully misplays by summoning his weak Cyber Commander into attack, hoping it will tempt Nezbitt into attacking him instead of Serenity. With no more plays, Tristan ends his turn. Now Tristan's hand, it's actually pretty terrible, probably worse than Serenity's. The only alternative play he had was to summon Commander into defense. With 2 high-level monsters, a ritual spell he can't use at the moment, and a terrible hyper-specific card. Why is he playing this card? This card's terrible, but with the cards he had, this is the best play that he had. It's Duke's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of the 13th Grave, Dimension Dice, and 4 mysterious cards. He summons the 13th Grave into defense and then ends his turn. Now Tristan gets a little bit upset by this play. He doesn't like the fact that Duke isn't summoning his monster into attack to have a 1 in 3 chance that one of them two might get attacked instead of Serenity. Nezbitt seems gung-ho on eliminating Serenity, so I don't think it would have mattered anyway. However, while I do find it admirable that Tristan's trying to protect Serenity, sometimes a good offense is a better defense kind of thing. Now I know he's in defense, and he won't do it on the next attack, but he can always throw his defense position monsters in front of these attacks to keep Serenity safe. But Duke needs monsters on the field to go for the attack. So there's got to be a bit of shared damage going around. So I understand that Duke playing, not really selfishly, but trying to go for the win immediately is fine. Someone's got to push for game. We can't all protect Serenity. Anyway, it's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gigatech Wolf, Ground Attacker Bergoth, Cyber Falcon, Oni Tank T34, Machine King, and Ryoku Fields. For some insane reason, despite having a 1500 attack monster, 2 1400 attack monsters, he summons his 1200 attack Gigatech Wolf. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Serenity's Shadow Tamer. Serenity takes the first damage of the duel. Nezbitt follows this play by activating his Deckmaster special ability. He sends 3 of his machine monsters in his hand to the grave, Ground Attacker Bergoth, Cyber Falcon, and Oni Tank T34 to deal 500 damage for each. He splits the damage evenly to each opponent. Serenity, Tristan, and Duke each take 500 damage. Nezbitt ends his turn by setting Ryoku Field face down. Right, there's a few things on this turn. So first of all, Tristan really wants to defend Serenity. Why didn't he just throw his monster in the way of Serenity to like tank that attack? You are allowed to do that in this duel. It would have been better if he summoned his monster into defense, then he could have done that in defense, but he didn't know that. We'll have that revealed later, but he could have just defended there. Also, Duke could have thrown his defense position monster in front of Serenity's monster, but again, like I said earlier, he needs to push for game. He needs to get some presence on the board, so I understand why he didn't do that. A bit of damage to Serenity. It's not going to kill her, not yet anyway, so it's fine. What I'm not impressed about is Nezbitt. What are you doing? You're supposed to be the best duelist here. Not summoning the strongest monster in his hand, well, that was a very wacky play. But I think spreading the damage of his Deckmaster ability is also a misplay. What he should be doing is focusing on just one person. Personally, I would have gone for the strongest person. Literally that one round of plays, you can establish Serenity's the worst, Tristan's the second worst, Duke's the best. Probably go for Duke is probably the play I would be going for. Attack his monster, destroy it, deal 1500 damage to him. Or if you don't want to do that, attack into Serenity, do your attack damage, then do 1500 burn damage to her. She's literally life points on the brink already. Unless there's some reason why he can't focus damage onto one person in this duel that he doesn't mention, because he's always going to split it evenly between everyone. I don't know. This is going to be a misplay. He's going to permeate throughout the duel. He's not going to focus on anyone with his Deckmaster ability. And it doesn't seem to state you can't pick the same person 3 times, so I don't know. Weird. It's back to Serenity, and she draws a second copy of Shadow Tamer. Serenity, realizing the misplay she made on her first turn, tries to make up for it by summoning a monster with good defense points this time, which technically she does get right, as she summons the Forgiving Maiden with its impressive 2000 defense. However, unfortunately, she summons it in the wrong position. Tristan, having witnessed the fumble, demands she gets a replay. However, Nezbitt reminds everyone there are no take-backsies in a duel. And so, Serenity ends her turn with a second huge misplay in a row. I just want to say, we make fun of people making misplays here, but no shade on Serenity. If you've never played the card game before, and like Yu-Gi-Oh is a hard game to get into, don't get me wrong, so it's not her fault that she doesn't know how to play. I mean, she's surrounded by people that plays, it's kind of the culture of their universe. So she probably could have made a little bit of an effort, but it's not her fault. It's fine. It's Tristan's turn, and he draws Block Attack. Hoping to fix Serenity's mistake, he activates it, attempting to switch her monster into defense. However, Nezbitt is having none of this, and activates his counter trap, Ryoku Field. This negates and destroys a spell that targets exactly one monster on the field. Block Attack is negated and destroyed. With no further plays, Tristan ends his turn. Tristan's hand is dead. We've established that. But there is a play he could have done. Basically, he could have summoned his Deckmaster Super Robo Yaru to the field right here. Switch his Cyber Commander into attack. Attack Gigatech Wolf using his Deckmaster. Activate its ability to set a spell trap in his hand. Gain a 1000 attack point boost. Nezbitt would take 1000 damage, followed by a direct attack from Cyber Commander. Duke's turn, Nezbitt's field is wide open. He can summon his Yaranzo, switch 13th Grave to attack, and then summon his Deckmaster. Duke's Deckmaster, by the way, in the anime, has 2350 attack. If Nezbitt wants to bring himself out as Deckmaster with its measly 1800 defense, its highest stat, well, Duke can just destroy it with Strike Ninja, winning him the duel. So yeah, fun fact, Tristan could have been the catalyst for victory had he gone on the offensive instead of being so obsessed with protecting Serenity. Huge misplay, home team. You could have won the duel. It's Duke's turn, and he draws Yaranzo. He summons it to the field into defense. He sets Dimension Dice face down and ends his turn. Now, despite what I just said on the last turn, Duke could have gone on the offensive here with his Yaranzo. By summoning it into attack instead, he could have destroyed Gigatech Wolf. By doing this, Nezbitt wouldn't have a tribute material for his Machine King on his next turn. Which, when things like this happen in old Yu-Gi-Oh duels, these normally snowball and the other team ends up winning if they're just taking a little bit more advantage early in the duel. However, in this case, we could win if we go for that game-winning play I mentioned on the last turn. Basically, we go round again. This time, Tristan gets out his Deckmaster. Duke's turn, not only we get out the Deckmaster, but now we also get out Orgoth the Relentless. We'll have another monster on the field. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed game right there, because we can destroy the Deckmaster or do enough damage to go for the win. It's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws Card of Sanctity. He tributes Gigatech Wolf to summon Machine King. Due to its effect, Machine King gains 100 attack for every machine-type monster on the field. Since there are 2, itself and Tristan's Cyber Commander, it gains 200 attack. Nezbitt enters his battle phase and uses Machine King to attack Serenity's Forgiving Maiden. Before the attack can collide, however, Tristan orders his Cyber Commander to intercept the attack. It is destroyed and Tristan takes a ton of damage. Duke scolds Tristan here, saying, why don't you let me throw one of my defense monsters in the way of Serenity? Then nobody would have taken any damage. However, due to Tristan's inexperience, he never even thought of this possibility. Which is a good point. Tristan should have switched his monster into defense, then he could have defended with his Cyber Commander in defense and not taken any damage. But again, he probably just didn't know. Following the battle phase, Nezbitt activates Card of Sanctity. This allows all duelists to draw until they have 6 cards in their hand. Nezbitt, whose hand is empty, draws 6 new cards. He gets Cannon Soldier, Gradius Option, whatever machine type monster this is, Dimension Hole, Short Circuit, and Backup Soldier. Serenity draws 1 new card. She gets Marie the Fallen One. Tristan draws 2 new cards. He gets Rare Metal Soul and a Mysterious card. Duke draws 2 new cards as well. He gets Dark Assailant and Orgoth the Relentless. Nezbitt activates his Deckmaster ability and discards the 3 new machine monsters in his hand. Serenity, Tristan, and Duke each take 500 damage. Nezbitt sets Backup Soldier face down and ends his turn. It's Serenity's turn, and she draws Lady Panther. Finally getting the swing of things, she summons it correctly into defense. Not only that, but she switches Forgiving Maiden into defense and ends her turn. Well done! It's Tristan's turn, and he draws Command Angel. He summons it into defense. Due to this card's effect, all fairy-type monsters gain 400 attack while it's on the field. Tristan ends his turn. I think here is a great time to ask, what is Tristan's deck? He's got a spell that supports warriors and spellcasters. He's got a monster that supports fairies. His Deckmaster and 2 of the cards he has are machines, and the only other one is a beast warrior. His deck, I'm going to be honest with you, just seems really thrown together. There's no theme, there's no strategy. I don't really get it. I'm just going to have to chalk this up to Tristan's inexperience as well, but I'll be honest, he could have built a better deck for this duel. It's Duke's turn, and he draws Dimension Hole. He summons Dark Assailant into defense. With this monster, the home team has 5 defensive monsters on their fields. Duke notes how Nezbitt must have torn through all of the monsters in his deck by now. so he's not scared of his Deckmaster ability anymore. However, Nezbitt responds by activating his face-down Backup Soldier. Since there are 5 or more monsters in his grave, he can add back 3 non-effect monsters with 1500 or less attack. He adds back Gigatech Wolf, Cyber Falcon, and Ground Attack Bergoth. He immediately follows this up by activating his Deckmaster ability, discarding the 3 machines he just added. Serenity, Duke, and Tristan each take 500 damage. Note that had he focused all of his damage on Tristan here, dealt 1500 damage to him, well, Tristan would have been eliminated. Which, had he done, well, Tristan would never have had the chance to set his rare metal soul, meaning Duke wouldn't be able to activate it later in the duel, meaning Serenity's monster would never get an attack boost and could never get over Nezbitt's monster, meaning Nezbitt would have won the duel. So it's at this point I've got to say, unless there's some reason that Nezbitt can't focus damage on one monster that is never stated in this duel, well, he could have won the duel. Misplay Nezbitt. It's Nezbitt's turn, and he draws the continuous spell Clockwork Knight. He activates it. Now, thanks to this card, all monsters currently on the opponent's field become machine types. As well, they lose 500 attack. Machine monsters Nezbitt controls, however, gain 500 attack. Nezbitt follows this play by activating his Short Circuit, which switches all opponent's machine monsters into attack. And not only that, but until the end of the opponent's next turns, those monsters cannot change their battle positions, attack, or activate their effects. And so, Nezbitt, planning to eliminate Serenity, attacks her Forgiving Maiden. Since Tristan is unable to move any of his monsters on the field because they're frozen in place, Tristan is forced to master summon his Deckmaster. He brings Super Robo Yaru onto the field to intercept the attack. Since it is battling, Super Robo Yaru's Deckmaster ability activates. When it battles, he can set 1 Spell Trap from his hand to increase this monster's attack by 1000. Tristan sets Rare Metal Soul. Despite the 1000 attack increase, it's not enough. Super Robo Yaru is destroyed. Tristan's life points and Deckmaster are eliminated simultaneously, meaning he gets double KO'd. Tristan is eliminated from the duel. Nezbitt ends his turn. Worth mentioning, but for a split second, I actually thought that Tristan could have won the duel here. All he had to do was set Rare Metal Soul face down, and now when the battle occurs, he uses it to increase his monster's attack. Unfortunately, however, it would have 3200 attack, which is still less than Machine King's 3400. Which technically would have gone up to 3,500 with Robo Yaru on the field. So unfortunately, the point I need to make is Tristan, there was no way you could have turned this duel around with any better plays that you had, unfortunately. Very chivalrous, I'll give you that, Tristan. You kept Serenity alive, but still, unlucky. It's Serenity's turn. Distraught and blaming herself for Tristan's defeat, she becomes unable to do anything. She doesn't even draw a card to start her turn. Duke and Nezbitt tried to convince her to start dueling, but they're no avail. So they actually just agree, should we just skip her turn? They're like, yeah, okay then, why not? Which, you can't do that in real life. You can't just not draw a card, because if you're about to deck out and you just use, oh, I just won't have a turn, you can do that indefinitely. So this is just a one-time thing that Nezbitt's gonna do. She can have this one turn. If we get background and she doesn't want to play, she's eliminated. It's actually kind of a shame that she didn't want to play here, because if she was pro Serenity Wheeler, well, she actually does have a play. This is because she has all the materials here to make her St. Joan. She has a spell card in her hand she can discard to activate her Deckmaster Fusion ability. She has the material, she can make St. Joan. If Duke knows to use his Deckmaster ability on Tristan's set card, she can activate it to give St. Joan 4,200 attack. Then St. Joan can attack and destroy Nezbitt's Machine King. I will say this play probably wouldn't have happened because 1, Serenity needs to have a flashback later in the duel to remember about fusion and tribute summoning, so that isn't an option, unfortunately. And 2, Duke didn't get the idea to consider Tristan's face down until Yugi appeared and was just like, all 3 of you need to work together. Tristan's not here. Oh, wait a minute. So I think this play was more of a hindsight thing, but it's just worth mentioning, she could have done this. It's Duke's turn, and he draws Dice Dungeon. Duke does something a little bit wacky here that only makes sense if you know how the duel is going to end. He plays Dimension Hole, which lets him banish one of his monsters until the next standby phase. He banishes Dark Assailant. Now, with one less machine monster on the field, Machine King's attack drops by 100. Seems like little value to me. You're losing one potential extra attack on your opponent directly for your opponent's monster to have 100 less attack. I don't know if I agree with that. You'll find out why he does this later in the duel, but there's no way that Duke could have known that here, so I'll talk about it in a second. For now, Duke activates his field spell, Dice Dungeon. Now, with Dice Dungeon on the field, Duke is allowed to activate his set dimension dice by attributing 2 monsters he controls. By doing this, he can special summon an Orgoth the Relentless in his hand. He tributes Uranzo and the 13th Grave to summon it. Machine King's attack drops by a further 200. Duke enters his battle phase and orders Orgoth to attack Machine King. Now, since 2 monsters are battling, the effect of Duke's field spell, Dice Dungeon, activates. When 2 monsters battle, each player rolls a 6-sided die and applies the result to the monster battling. If the result is 1, your monster loses 1000 attack. If it's 2, it gains 1000 attack. If it's 3, your monster's attack becomes 0. If it's 4, your monster's attack becomes 2000. If it's 5, your monster's attack is halved. If it is 6, your monster's attack is doubled. Finally, if Duke has no monsters on his field, this field spell destroys itself. Duke rolls and gets a 6. Orgoth's attack is doubled. Nezbitt rolls and gets a 1. Machine King's attack is decreased by 1000. The battle ensues and Orgoth destroys Machine King. As the battle phase ends, Orgoth's attack returns to normal. Duke ends his turn. Yet again, it's worth mentioning, if Duke hadn't banished the monster on his field, could he have attacked for game, or could he have summoned his Deckmaster to attack directly with an extra attack to go for game, because his field is technically open now? The answer to that is yes, he could have won. All he needed to do was not Dimension Hole his monster, summon his Deckmaster to the field, attack with his Dark Assailant directly. Nezbitt can choose to bring his Deckmaster to the field if he wants to. We got to keep in mind that the field spell will make it so both players have to roll a die. There is 2 chances for Duke to destroy the opponent's monster. Yes, technically there is a chance that Duke could lose his Deckmaster, but it would be Deckmaster versus Deckmaster roll, and Duke has the advantage in stats. So I feel like it was a risk worth taking, but I'll let you all be the judge. It's Nezbitt's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Recycling Plant. Nezbitt master summons himself to the field. He then activates Recycling Plant. Now, by banishing monsters from his field and grave, he can fusion summon a machine type monster. The fusion monster summoned can attack on the same turn it is summoned. Because remember, we've got hold over rulings from Battle City. Fusion monsters can't attack on the same turn they are summoned. Kaiba has a Deckmaster to circumvent this. That's how we know it's in effect during this thing, and it's worth noting that this will become important later, that's why I'm mentioning it now. Nezbitt banishes himself on the field and Machine King in the grave to summon Perfect Machine King. This card becomes his new Deckmaster. Due to Machine King's effect, it gains 500 attack for every machine monster on the field. Since there are 3 on the opponent's side of the field, including itself, plus the extra 500 from Clockwork Knight, it gains 2000 attack. Nezbitt enters his battle phase and attacks Orgoth the Relentless. Yet again, Dice Dungeon's effect activates. Nezbitt rolls and gets a 5. However, luckily for him, only its original attack was halved, so he doesn't lose too much attack. Duke rolls and unfortunately gets a 1. Orgoth loses 1000 attack. Perfect Machine King comes out the victor in the battle. Since Duke controls no monsters now, Dice Dungeon destroys itself. Perfect Machine King's attack returns to normal. Nezbitt ends his turn. It's Serenity's turn, and the final turn of the duel. Still racked with guilt, she is almost disqualified for inaction. However, after a pep talk from Duke and seeing Joey, she summons the courage to continue the fight. She draws and gets Magic Reflector. If you're just curious, by the way, what Serenity's hand is, she's got 7 cards in her hand at the end of this duel. She has Scroll of Bewitchment, Bad Reaction to Samochi, Shadow Tamer, Witch of the Black Forest, Fire Princess, Marie the Fallen One, and Magic Reflector. Serenity gets a flashback about Tristan teaching her Tribute Summoning and Fusion Summoning. Using this relearned knowledge, she sacrifices her Lady Panther to summon Marie the Fallen One. Machine King loses 500 attack since there is 1 less machine on the field. Serenity's Deckmaster, Goddess with a Third Eye, pipes up here and tells her that, well, her Deckmaster ability lets her act as polymerization for monsters on the field as long as she discards a spell. Serenity uses her Deckmaster ability by discarding Magic Reflector. She fuses the Forgiving Maiden with Marie the Fallen One to fusion summon Synth Joan. Perfect Machine King loses another 500 attack points. Now, since there's a fairy type monster on the field, Tristan's Command Angel that is still on the field boosts Serenity's fairy type monster's attack by 400. However, with only 3200 attack, it's still not enough to get over Machine King. However, that's when Yugi mentions, all three of you need to work together. What do you mean all three of us? Tristan's dead, he's not in the, oh my goodness, there's a face down card in Tristan's field. I know what to do. Duke uses his Deckmaster ability by discarding 2 cards. He activates a set card on the field as if it was his own. He activates Tristan's set Rare Metal Soul. He uses its effect targeting Synth Joan. It increases its attack by 1000. With both monsters having 4200 attack, Serenity enters a battle phase and crashes it into Perfect Machine King. Both are destroyed. However, since Perfect Machine King was Nezbitt's Deckmaster, he loses the duel due to his Deckmaster being destroyed. Serenity and Duke win the duel. Before the duel begins, each duelist chooses their Deckmaster. Unbeknownst to Kaiba, Leichter chooses himself, Jinzo. His Deckmaster ability is it negates the effects of all face-up trap cards the opponent controls and then destroys them. Arguably, top 3 Deckmasters of the season, by the way, very strong. Kaiba chooses his Lord of D. Its Deckmaster ability is once per turn you can pay 500 life points, normal summon 1 dragon type monster in addition to your normal summon or set. Decent, but just not as good as Leichter's. And so, with the Deckmasters chosen, the duel begins and Leichter goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Hero Shadow Scout, Solemn Wishes, Seebeck's Blessing, Life Absorbing Machine, Mask of Perplexity, and Imperial Order. Leichter sets his Hero Shadow Scout, Solemn Wishes, and Imperial Order face down, and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Spear Dragon, Giant Germ, the Wicked Worm Beast, Crush Card Virus, Polymerization, and Defusion. Kaiba immediately goes on the offense. He summons his Spear Dragon into attack and then enters his battle phase. He orders Spear Dragon to attack Leichter's Sect monster. It is destroyed, and due to Spear Dragon's effect, it deals piercing battle damage. Leichter takes the first damage of the duel. However, following this, the flip effect of Hero Shadow Scout activates. Kaiba must now draw 3 cards and reveal them. If any of the cards drawn are spell cards, they are sent to the grave. Anything else, he gets to keep. And so, Kaiba draws and reveals Cave Dragon, Double Snare, and Magic Reflector. The 2 spells are sent to the grave, and Cave Dragon is added to Kaiba's hand. Real quick, Hero Shadow Scout is not a good card in this duel. Leichter really shouldn't be using it. Why? Well, it's because you're potentially letting your opponent add up to 3 cards to their hand. Worst case scenario, they draw 3 traps or 3 monsters or some combination of the 2, they just go +3. The only reason you would want to play this card is if you're playing like a mill deck, you're trying to deck out your opponent and they're drawing 3 cards every time this card flips up, so it's not that bad. But Leichter's not playing a mill deck, he's playing a control deck, and we don't need to get rid of spells from Kaiba's deck. We want him to draw into more spells, because that means he can't use them, because we've got a face down Imperial Order on the field. So, yeah, kind of a weird card to have in the deck. It's not a misplay, but I would just advise not to play this in the future. Also, another fun fact, Cave Dragon, the card that Kaiba's just drawn, is a weird monster. It can't be summoned to the field if you already control a monster, so it has to be the first monster you summon. And then, if it's the only monster on the field, it can't declare an attack. So if you wonder why Kaiba doesn't summon this monster, it's because he literally can't unless he's got an empty field, which he won't have for the rest of the duel. So, fun fact, by the way. Anyway, since Spear Dragon declared an attack, its effect activates, which switches it into defense after battling. Kaiba ends his turn by setting Crush Card Virus face down. As his turn comes to an end, Leichter activates his continuous trap, Solemn Wishes. Now, while this card is face up on the field, Leichter gains 500 life points anytime he draws a card. Speaking of, it's back to Leichter, and he draws Cyberjar. Due to Solemn Wishes, since he drew a card, he gains 500 life points. Leichter sets his Cyberjar face down, along with his Mask of Perplexity, and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. This card and the card he's going to draw on his next turn will both be mysterious cards. Why are they mysterious cards? Because he discards them in a minute. I'll talk about what they are later, but they're not important for the time being. Kaiba summons his giant germ into attack. He then switches Spear Dragon back into attack mode. Kaiba enters his battle phase and attacks Lecter's set monster with Spear Dragon, hoping to deal piercing battle damage. However, in response, Lecter activates his set trap, Mask of Perplexity. This card can only be activated in response to an opponent's attack. It switches the attack target to another monster the opponent controls. Spear Dragon's attack is redirected to Kaiba's own giant germ. It's destroyed, and Kaiba takes self-damage. Now, while this might seem like a bad thing for Kaiba, and it kind of is, he doesn't actually mind, because all the criteria has been met now to activate his set trap, Crush Card Virus. Since a Dart monster with 1000 or less attack has been destroyed on his field by battle, now he can rip every monster with 1500 or more attack from Lecter's hand and deck. As well, while Crush Card Virus resides in Kaiba's grave, Lecter cannot summon any of the cards sent to the grave by this card's effect. Or at least this would have been the case if not for Lecter finally revealing who his deckmaster is. Jinzo. Now, due to its deckmaster ability, Kaiba's trap cards for the remainder of the duel just simply don't work. Crush Card Virus is negated and destroyed. Due to Giant Germ being destroyed by a battle, its effect activates. It burns Lecter for 500 damage and then summons a second copy of itself from the deck. Finally, since Spear Dragon declared an attack, it switches itself back into defense mode. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Lecter's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Solemn Wishes boosts his life points by 500. Lecter then sets his Seebeck's Blessing and Life-Absorbing Machine face down and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws another mysterious card. Now, despite the fact something bad happened on the last two turns when he attacked with Spear Dragon into a face-down monster, he's going to do it again. Third time's the charm, right? Kaiba switches Spear Dragon into attack and attacks Lecter's face-down monster, hoping to do piercing battle damage. The attack is successful. Lecter's face-down Cyber Jar, along with 1400 of his life points, are destroyed. Unfortunately, Cyber Jar has a nasty flip effect. When flipped, it destroys every monster on the field, and then both players reveal the top 5 cards of their deck. All level 4 or lower monsters revealed are summoned to the field in either face-up attack, face-up defense, or face-down defense. The remaining cards are added to the hand. Cyber Jar destroys Kaiba's Spear Dragon and Giant Germ. Lecter and Kaiba each reveal the top 5 cards of their decks. Lecter gets Injection Fairy Lily, Watch Tranquilizer, Spring of Rebirth, Emergency Provisions, and a mysterious card. He summons Fairy Lily into attack. Kaiba gets Vorse Raider, Twin-Headed Behemoth, Thunder Dragon, Hayo Zanryu, and Pot of Greed. Kaiba summons Vorse Raider into attack, and then Twin-Headed Behemoth into face-up defense. The rest of the cards are added to both players' hands. However, since they were added and not drawn, Lecter doesn't gain any life points from Solemn Wishes. As well, since Giant Germ was destroyed by card effect and not by battle, its effect also doesn't activate. Kaiba, with no more plays, ends his turn. As he does, while not shown to the audience, he is actually forced to discard 3 cards here, since he has ended his turn exceeding the 6-card hand limit. With 9 cards in his hand, which I'll remind you are the Wicked Worm Beast, Polymerization, Defusion, Cave Dragon, Thunder Dragon, Hayo Zanryu, Pot of Greed, and 2 mysterious cards, Kaiba discards Thunder Dragon along with the 2 mysterious cards, which I can only assume are trap cards since they're dead now for the rest of the store. If I'm going to have to pick what they are, I'm going to say Ring of Destruction and Attack Guidance Armor. So he threw these 2 away with Thunder Dragon. Was this a good choice of cards to throw away? Well, the traps, yes. Thunder Dragon, not in my opinion. From Kaiba's perspective, rather than dumping all these cards in the grave, the right move here would have been to keep Thunder Dragon, go into main phase 2, activate Thunder Dragon's effect, discard it to add 2 other copies of Thunder Dragon from his deck to his hand. Activate Polymerization, make Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. This means we now have a 2800 attack monster to help us defend with. So would this have been a good play? No, because he's got Imperial Order face down on the field. This entire play would have just got negated. But Kaiba doesn't know that, so this would have made sense to be the right move to make. Should he have gone for it? Probably. Maybe get rid of the Defusion, and then he still gets to keep all the, because he needs dragons for later for the Spirit Ryu play. So the same also applies for Kaiba not activating Pot of Greed here. First of all, his hand is very big with 9 cards now going to 6. Probably using Pot of Greed is a bit of a waste here. And with Imperial Order, which he doesn't know it's there yet, it would have been a dead card. So this is like the only time I'm going to say this, but Kaiba not shotgun activating Pot of Greed, we're going to give it a pass. This is the one time where it's absolutely okay not to activate it. However, ignoring all of this, there is a very easy play Kaiba could have done to win on this turn. And that was just to simply summon his twin-headed behemoth into attack as well, and use Force Raider to attack Injection Fairy Lily, and then twin-headed behemoth directly for game. These monsters were summoned in the middle of the battle phase. They haven't declared an attack yet. Attack with them. He's left his Injection Fairy Lily in attack mode. It's only got like 400 attack points. But what about Injection Fairy Lily's ability to increase his attack by 3,000 if he pays 2,000 life points? He doesn't have enough. He's only got 1,700 life points, meaning both attacks would be successful. Both of the back row doesn't actually stop him. So Kaiba, yes, would have won the duel this turn. So why didn't he do this? Well, I think there's two reasons. First of all, later in the duel, Kaiba comments about being nervous attacking into Fairy Lily in case Lecter restores his life points with his set traps. While not stated here with 3 set cards, I don't blame Kaiba for being cautious. However, in this case, he would have got away with it. Alternatively, there may be an unwritten effect that prevents monsters summoned by Cyberjar being able to attack on the turn they are summoned. My evidence for this is in the 3 other times that Cyberjar has been used, no one has ever declared an attack on the same battle phase or whatever that they were summoned in. So yeah, I guess you just can't attack with these monsters. Why? It might be a carryover from the manga where special summon monsters have summoning sickness, but other than that, I have no idea. Weird, could just be a translation thing. So regardless, we'll give Kaiba a pass here. No misplays from me. It's back to Lecter, and he draws Fire Princess. He gains 500 life points thanks to Solemn Wishes. Lecter activates his Watch Tranquilizer spell. This card decreases the attack of a monster by 100 for every level it has. He uses it on Force Raider to lower its attack to 1500. Lecter moves into his battle phase and orders Injection Fairy Lily to attack Force Raider. He pays 2000 life points to increase Fairy Lily's attack by 3000. With 3400, Force Raider is destroyed. After the battle, Lecter activates his set quick play spell, Seebeck's Blessing. This card increases his life points by the same amount of damage he just inflicted to Kaiba, and so he gains 1900 life points. Following this, since the battle is over, Injection Fairy Lily's attack returns to normal. Lecter ends his turn by setting Fire Princess face down, which I think is a very silly play. Why? Well, first of all, as tempting as it is to, why not just summon that Fire Princess into attack mode before the battle phase and use it to destroy Twin-Headed Behemoth so that it will come back weaker? The problem with this play is that if Kaiba gets out 2 decent monsters on his next turn, he can destroy Fire Princess, putting Lecter's life points below 2000. He can then destroy Fairy Lily since it can't use its effect to defend itself. So that move we don't like, but there's a better move. The superior play is to summon Fire Princess into face-up defense before the battle phase. The reason why is 1, it has 1500 defense, meaning Kaiba's behemoth can't attack over it on the next turn. But more importantly, because it has the effect each time Lecter gains life points, this card inflicts 500 damage to Kaiba. This means when Seebeck's Blessing activates, we can burn Kaiba for 500 damage, putting him to 700 life points. And spoilers, Lecter is going to gain life points twice on his next turn, so theoretically on his next turn he could have dealt a further 1000 burn damage and won the duel. Would this play have won for Lecter? Well, let's play it out. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws a wing beat of a giant dragon. Realizing he's cooked next turn, he normal summons his Wicked Worm Beast, and then uses his Deckmaster ability to normal summon an additional dragon monster at the cost of 500 life points. He tributes Worm Beast and Behemoth to summon Hayo Zanryu. Hayo Zanryu is strong enough to attack and destroy Fire Princess. Kaiba is forced to end his turn here. It's Lecter's turn and he draws. He gains some life points thanks to his cards, then he just attacks Hayo Zanryu and wins the duel. So yes, just leaving Fire Princess face up on the field here would have been enough to win him the duel. Huge misplay, Lecter, you could have won. Anyway, getting back to the true timeline, it's Kaiba's turn, and he draws a wing beat of a giant dragon. Kaiba's current hand consists of Pot of Greed, Polymerization, Cave Dragon, Defusion, wing beat of a giant dragon, the Wicked Worm Beast, and Hayo Zanryu. Kaiba, wary of going on the offensive with Lily's effect and Lecter's set cards, decides to play slow. He sets his Wicked Worm Beast in face down defense and then ends his turn. As his turn comes to an end, Leichter activates his set Life Absorbing Machine. Due to this continuous trap, now during each of his standby phases, he will gain half the life points he paid during his previous turn. And so it's Leichter's turn, and he draws Satellite Cannon. Leichter gains 500 life points from Solemn Wishes due to drawing a card. He then gains a further 1000 life points thanks to Life Absorbing Machine, since he paid 2000 life points to use Fairy Lily's effect on his previous turn. Leichter tributes his set Fire Princess to summon Satellite Cannon. Its effect is it can't be destroyed by a battle, and you receive no battle damage from monsters that are level 7 or lower. During each of your end phases, place one charge counter on this card. When this card declares an attack, its attack becomes 1000 times the number of charge counters on this card. After attacking, remove all charge counters from it. Leichter moves into his battle phase and orders Injection Fairy Lily to attack Twin-Headed Behemoth. He boosts its attack by paying 2000 life points. Twin-Headed Behemoth is destroyed. However, due to its effect, it returns back to the field into defense with its attack and defense reduced to 1000. Leichter moves into his main phase 2 and sets Spring of Rebirth face down, and then activates his emergency provisions. This lets him send any number of spells and traps on the field to the grave to increase his life points by 1000 for each. He sends Spring of Rebirth to gain 1000 life points. Leichter ends his turn. As he does, Satellite Cannon gains its first charge counter. Right! This was a terrible turn by Leichter. What he should have done, instead, was flip summon Fire Princess. Use Fire Princess to attack and destroy Twin-Headed Behemoth. It's destroyed, but then returns back to the field into defense. Use Fairy Lily to destroy either the set Wicked Worm Beast or finish off Behemoth. Main phase 2, use Emergency Provisions to gain 1000 life points. Fire Princess deals 500 damage to Kaiba thanks to its effect. Tribute Fire Princess to summon Satellite Cannon. Or, better yet, just keep Fire Princess on the field. Satellite Cannon's weakness is level 8 monsters. Seto Kaiba is famous for playing 3 level 8 Blue Eyes White Dragons as his ultimate boss monster, and his deck kind of revolves around it, so it's very safe to assume you're going to get hard countered by one of these monsters at some point in the duel. So in my opinion, go the burn route. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Heavy Storm. He activates it immediately, attempting to destroy all spells and traps on both sides of the field. However, Leichter reveals his set trap that he's had on the field this entire game, Imperial Order. Now, as long as this card remains face up on the field, spell cards no longer work. However, to keep this card on the field, Leichter must pay 700 life points during each of his standby phases. If he doesn't, this card destroys itself. Heavy Storm's effect is negated. With Jinzo as Deckmaster and Imperial Order on the field, 2/3 of the entire Duel Monster game mechanics are unavailable to Kaiba. Kaiba, with no more plays, reluctantly ends his turn. It's Leichter's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Leichter gains 500 life points thanks to Solemn Wishes, and a further 1000 thanks to Life Absorbing Machine. Leichter chooses to pay the 700 life point maintenance cost for Imperial Order. He moves into his battle phase and uses Satellite Cannon to attack Kaiba's set monster. With only one charge counter, its attack becomes 1000. Luckily, Kaiba's set monster is revealed to be Wicked Worm Beast with only 700 defense. It's destroyed. Due to declaring an attack with Satellite Cannon, it loses its charge counter. Leichter chooses not to attack Twin-Headed Behemoth with Fairy Lily, since that would lower his life points below 2000. Meaning he can't use its effect to defend and would be at a huge risk. So instead, Leichter ends his turn. As he does, Satellite Cannon gains a charge counter. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Spirit Ryu. With all the pieces in place, Kaiba goes on the attack. He switches Twin-Headed Behemoth into attack and then summons his Spirit Ryu. Kaiba enters his battle phase and orders Spirit Ryu to attack Injection Fairy Lily. Leichter in response pays 2000 life points to boost its attack by 3000. Kaiba in response activates Spirit Ryu's effect. During the damage step, he can discard any number of Dragon-type monsters in his hand to increase its attack by 1000 for each. Kaiba discards his Hyo Zanryu and Cave Dragon to increase its attack by 2000. While this isn't enough to attack over Lily, it does mean Kaiba will survive the battle. Spirit Ryu is destroyed. Also, fun fact, when Kaiba milled for when he had too many cards in his hand, he got rid of that Thunder Dragon. If he would have used this effect, added 2 Thunder Dragons to his hand and got rid of, say, defusion or polymerization, if he didn't plan on fusing or anything like that, he could have had 4 or 3 dragons in his hand, which would have been enough to get over Injection Fairy Lily. Fun fact. Would it have worked out that way? I don't know. It might not have, but just fun fact anyway. After the battle, Injection Fairy Lily's attack returns to normal. Now, without enough life points to boost Lily's attack again, Kaiba attacks it with Twin-Headed Behemoth. Injection Fairy Lily is destroyed. Kaiba ends his turn. Do you see now what I meant, Lecter, by holding on to that emergency provisions and using it reactively? You could have used it right now, got rid of the Spring of Rebirth that was face down on the field, and probably Life Absorbing Machine. You would have gained 2,000 life points, more than enough to use the effect again. Kaiba couldn't respond to it, and he would have taken over 2,000 damage and would have lost the duel right here. So, fun fact, could have won this way as well. It's Lecter's turn, and he draws Dream Sprite. Lecter gains 500 life points thanks to Solemn Wishes, followed by 350 from Life Absorbing Machine since he only paid for Imperial Order on his last turn. Speaking of, with only 1,650 life points left, Lecter chooses not to pay the maintenance cost of Imperial Order, and so it destroys itself. Let's see if getting rid of this card was a mistake or if he really needed those life points. Lecter sets his Dream Sprite face down and then enters his battle phase and orders Satellite Cannon to crash into Twin-Headed Behemoth. With one charge counter, its attack becomes 1,000. Only Twin-Headed Behemoth is destroyed in the battle, since Satellite Cannon can't be destroyed in battle by monsters while level 7 or below. Satellite Cannon's charge counters return to 0 after the battle. Lecter ends his turn. As he does, Satellite Cannon gains one charge counter. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Possessed Dark Soul. With Imperial Order gone, Kaiba finally activates his Pot of Greed. He draws and gets 2 mysterious cards. I assume they're just monsters, possibly weak monsters. I'll explain why later. So I'm just gonna say Saggy the Dark Clown and that Gremlin card. What's it called? Dark Gremlin. Why not? Kaiba summons his Possessed Dark Soul and then uses it to attack Lecter's set monster. It's revealed to be Dream Sprite. Due to its effect, when attacked, Lecter can redirect the attack to another monster. He redirects it to Satellite Cannon. Due to Satellite Cannon's effect, it is not destroyed by the battle, and no damage is dealt. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Lecter's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets another mysterious card. Forget about penultimate turn t-shirt, I need to get a mysterious card t-shirt, 100%. Everyone's got mysterious cards lately, what the hell? Lecter gains 500 life points from Solemn Wishes. With no plays, Lecter ends his turn here. As he does, Satellite Cannon gains a second charge counter. Didn't have any plays. That is a big fat lie. What he could have done was Deckmaster summon himself, Jinzo, to the field. Use Jinzo to attack Possessed Dark Flame and destroy it. This attack will do 1,200 damage. Kaiba only has 800 life points left, so that will be game. And even if this monster was in defense, he could have just destroyed it with Jinzo and then attacked directly with Satellite Cannon, which would have done 1,000 damage, and that also would have been game. Not only does Kaiba not have any back row, so there's no reason not to Deckmaster summon Jinzo. Trap cards wouldn't have worked even if there were a bunch of set cards on the field anyway. So yes, this is another one of those cases where people don't use their Deckmasters in the way they're supposed to use their Deckmasters. Like, this is the perfect opportunity to summon it and just win. Lecter didn't do it. He's had multiple opportunities to win this duel, and he just hasn't done it. It's very embarrassing. It's Kaiba's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Blue Eyes White Dragon. Kaiba sets his Saggy the Dark Clown face down, and then activates his Lord of D's Deckmaster ability. He pays 500 life points so he can summon a Dragon-type monster. He tributes Possessed Dark Flame and Saggy the Dark Clown to summon Blue Eyes White Dragon. Kaiba enters his battle phase and orders Blue Eyes White Dragon to attack Satellite Cannon. The attack animation is pretty damn awesome. I love the way it looks flying up into the sky and everything's so cool. Since Blue Eyes is a level 8 monster, it can successfully attack Satellite Cannon. And since Satellite Cannon can only gain attack points when it attacks, that means not only is it destroyed, but Lecter takes 3,000 damage, dropping his life points to 0 and winning Kaiba the duel. The duel is structured as a 2v1. Yugi and Joey have their own hand, field, life points, and deck masters. The big five share the same hand, field, and life points, but they get 8,000 since they're at a disadvantage. As well, they can switch their deck masters at the start of each of their turns. We'll go through each of the deck masters and what they can do as they appear, and I'll even give them a 5-star rating on how powerful or how weak I think they are. So, the duel begins and the big five goes first. Gansley takes control first. His Deckmaster is Deep Sea Warrior. Its Deckmaster ability is when a monster you control is attacked, you contribute 2 monsters to negate the attack and inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attacking monster's attack. I rate this Deckmaster 2 stars out of 5. Yes, you could build a deck around it and you could actually do quite well with it, and you can do a lot of damage redirecting attacks. Essentially, you always have a magic cylinder on the field, but because you have to tribute 2 monsters that are on the field as well, that's a big amount of resources to give, so 2 stars is the absolute max I can give this. Gansley draws. His opening hand consists of a legendary fisherman, a legendary ocean, monster reborn, premature burial, polymerization, and driving snow. Gansley starts by activating his field spell, a legendary ocean. This card has the effect that it's always treated as Yumi. While on the field, water monsters in hand are 1 level less. Water monsters on the field gain 200 attack and defense. Since the legendary fisherman is treated as a level 4 monster, he summons it straight to the field without a cost. Due to its effect while it is on the field alongside Umi, it is unaffected by spell effects and cannot be targeted for an attack. But that does not prevent the opponent from attacking directly. This unfortunately also means Legendary Fisherman can't get the benefits of the field spell since it's immune to spell effects, so it can't gain 200 attack from the field spell. Crazy. Gansley ends his turn here. Should he have set that driving snow face down here? No. This card requires another trap card on the field to be blown up while this card is on the field. They don't have another one, plus this is gonna would have got blown up later if it was on the field, so it's not a big deal. Not setting this face down is fine. It's Joey's turn. His Deckmaster is the Flame Swordsman. Its Deckmaster ability is it can reduce its own attack by any amount to increase the attack of another warrior monster on the field by the same amount. Now, I'm actually going to give the Flame Swordsman Deckmaster ability 3 out of 5 stars because I actually think it's quite practical, and especially because, well, having strong monsters in the field is quite beneficial in early Yu-Gi-Oh!, but also because you can make a 1300 attack point monster 4000 attack as long as it's a warrior type monster, and if that monster manages to attack directly, you've instantly won the duel. Not in this one, obviously, because they've got 8000 life points, but that's pretty good, and you can put this on a few different monsters. The biggest hindrance to stop it from going any higher is that you're hard limited at 1700 attack because this monster can't go below 100 attack points. And as well, you can only use this monster's effect as much of the attack points as that it has. I guess if you could boost its attack, you could probably use it a little bit more, but that's troublesome to do if it's in the Deckmaster zone. And the fact that its ability is free to use as well, doesn't cost anything else, it's versatile. I think it's okay. Joey draws. His opening hand consists of Alligator Sword, Fairy Box, Burning Soul Sword, Polymerization, Double Snare, and Cyber Harpy. Unable to attack on the first turn, Joey summons his Alligator Sword into defense. He then ends his turn. Should Joey have set his Fairy Box face down, which is a spell card in the anime, and then the way spell cards work in this season is you can set them face down, they become quick effects during the opponent's turn, so you can use it to defend yourself with it. Should he have done that? Yeah, he should have really. The way it works in the anime is that when it's activated, all attack position monsters Joey controls are unable to be attacked for a whole turn. This might have saved him from a future pickle. It's Yugi's turn. His Deckmaster is Dark Magician. Its Deckmaster ability is it can pay 1000 life points to apply the effect of a spell card he previously used. Now, Yugi's Deckmaster I actually think is really good. I'm going to give this one 4 stars out of 5 because think of it this way. I activate Pot of Greed, pay 1000 life points, activate Pot of Greed again. I activate Monster Reborn, pay 1000 life points, I activate Monster Reborn again. I activate Regeki. I didn't wipe everything, I use this again, Regeki again. It's really versatile. I feel there's a lot of different things you can do with this. Something like, I don't know, like a limit removal and then limit removal again, or something that doubles attack. You can do some crazy stuff with this. So I actually think it's quite good. Yeah. I like it. Yugi draws. His opening hand consists of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, Buster Blader, Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Blackluster Soldier, Card Destruction, and Karibo. Yugi, unable to attack on the first turn, summons his Gazelle into defense and ends his turn. It's back to the big 5. Crump takes over the duel. His Deckmaster is Nightmare Penguin. Its Deckmaster ability is water monsters on the field gain 200 attack points. I'm not a huge fan of this one. 1 star out of 5, maybe 2 if I was really pushing it. I feel like I'm just going to give it a 1 though. Like 200 attack. That's it. That's not really going to do very much. The best thing I can say about this card is that it's just a generic effect that just happens. Like, you don't have to pay anything, you don't have to worry about it or anything, but you have to build your deck around it, and even then, it's not doing a fat ton, so I just don't like it very much, unfortunately. Crump draws and gets Catapult Turtle. Legendary Fisherman's attack points increase due to Nightmare Penguin's Deckmaster ability. Crump moves straight into his battle phase and uses the Legendary Fisherman to attack and destroy Gazelle. Crump moves into his main phase 2 and summons Catapult Turtle into defense. He's able to do this since it was treated as a level 4 monster in the hand. Catapult Turtle gains 400 attack and 200 defense thanks to the field spell and Nightmare Penguin. And here on the Big 5's second turn, they've thrown the duel already. This is going to be a running theme throughout this entire duel. All they needed to do to win was stop using crap Deckmaster abilities. If they would have used the good characters, they could have won this turn. Instead of Crump, sub Johnson in. Activate his Judgeman Deckmaster ability. Pay 1,000 life points, destroy all monsters the opponent controls, and then deal 500 damage for each one of their monsters destroyed. Gazelle and Alligator Sword are destroyed. Yugi and Joey take 500 damage each, and have no monsters on their fields and no spell and trap cards in their back row. Normal summon Catapult Turtle into attack. Use its effect, tribute Legendary Fisherman to deal 925 damage to Yugi. Activate Premature Burial, bring back Legendary Fisherman, use Catapult Turtle's effect again, dealing another 925 damage to Yugi. Activate Monster Reborn, bring back Legendary Fisherman. Enter the battle phase, attack Yugi directly with Legendary Fisherman, attempting to go for game. Yugi discards his Karibo to negate the damage. Attack directly with Catapult Turtle next. Yugi realizes if this attack goes through, his life points will be so low that he will lose to Catapult Turtle's effect when Johnson moves into his main phase 2. So, Yugi is forced to Deckmaster summon his Dark Magician to the field to defend himself. A replay occurs. Johnson instead chooses to attack Joey directly with Catapult Turtle. Johnson ends his turn. We then move to Joey's turn, and he draws. He summons his Cyber Harpy Lady to the field, but Johnson uses the quick effect of his Deckmaster, pays 1,000 life points to destroy Yugi and Joey's monsters. Fairy Box only prevents battle destruction, so it wouldn't be able to save his monster. Cyber Harpy Lady and Dark Magician are destroyed. Joey takes 500 damage, however, since Yugi's Deckmaster was destroyed, Yugi is eliminated. Joey, unable to summon any more monsters to the field, is forced to end his turn here by setting Kunai with Chain face down. Seeing that Joey has set a card on the field, Lecter subs in with his Jinzo Deckmaster next. Now, Joey can't use his set trap. Lecter enters the battle phase, attacks with Legendary Fisherman. Joey has no choice but to summon his Deckmaster to defend, but Legendary Fisherman is stronger and so destroys it. Since Joey's Deckmaster is destroyed, Joey also loses the duel. Note they also could have won that turn by Lecter bringing Jinzo to the field so we could have more attacks on the field, or Lecter could use Catapult Turtle to tribute the monster to destroy the rest of Joey's life points. The point of the matter is, there are so many different ways for them to win. It's crazy. Like, I understand that the Big 5 aren't duelists first. They're businessmen. But they've been trapped in this virtual world for so long, you feel like they'd learn every in and out of the Deckmaster game strategy, which I assume they invented or Noah did, whatever, and they have loads of time to practice. And they picked themselves, a couple of them have some absolutely insanely broken Deckmaster abilities. They should be nerfed, and they still can't win. It's crazy. I'm going to repeat myself a lot in this video, so get ready. Huge misplay, Big 5. Huge misplay. You literally could have absorbed all 5 of their bodies right now, gone into the real world and formed your own company like Konami or something like that, and you could be running Yu-Gi-Oh right now in the real world. How embarrassing. Getting back to what really happens in the duel, it's Joey's turn, and he draws Kunai with Chain. He sets it face down and then summons Cyber Harpy, which he added to his deck as a homage to Mai. He switches his Alligator Sword into attack. Unable to attack over either of Crump's monsters, he ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Mystical Elf. He summons it into defense and then ends his turn. It's back to the Big 5. Since Crump is doing so well, he stays in control for another turn. He draws and gets Magician of Faith. Crump moves straight into his battle phase and uses the Legendary Fisherman to attack Mystical Elf. Joey in response uses his set Kunai with Chain. which equips itself to an opponent's monster and then switches it into defense. It then increases the attack of one of his monsters by 500. Legendary Fisherman is switched to defense. Alligator Sword's attack increases to 2000. With no more plays, Crump sets his Magician of Faith face down and ends his turn. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but if Johnson took over, he could have wiped all the monsters off the field, could have avoided all this. If Leichter had taken over the field, Jinzo would have been on the field, then the trap cards wouldn't have worked. Just saying. It's Joey's turn, and he draws another of Mai's cards, Harpy's Feather Duster. He activates it immediately. This card destroys all spells and traps the opponent controls. Legendary Ocean is destroyed. Catapult Turtle loses 200 attack and defense. Joey enters his battle phase and destroys the Legendary Fisherman with Cyber Harpy Lady. Alligator Sword then attacks the set Magician of Faith. It's destroyed, however, its flip effect activates, which allows Crump to add a spell in his grave back to his hand. He adds back a Legendary Ocean. Joey ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. This card is going to be discarded in a few more seconds, so it doesn't really matter what it is. It never gets used or mentioned for the rest of this duel. I'm just going to say Baphomet. Why not? Knowing that Crump will utilize Legendary Ocean in his hand on the next turn, Yugi summons his Karibo into defense and then activates his card Destruction. This forces all players to discard their entire hands and then redraw the same amount they discarded. Yugi discards 4 cards. He draws and gets Blackluster Ritual, Mirror Force, Polymerization, and Des Volskalf. Joey discards 4 cards. He draws and gets Block Attack, Knight's Title, Drop Off, and Gamble. Crump discards 5 cards. He draws and gets Machine King, Altar of Mist, Revenge Sacrifice, Injection Fairy Lily, and a deal with Dark Ruler. Yugi ends his turn. Now, would it have been worth Yugi setting that Mirror Force face down? Well, it depends. If Leichter comes to the field on the next turn, then trap cards don't work, so this card's kind of pointless. But if he doesn't, which he's not going to, then yes, this card would have helped. It's 50-50. He probably should have set it face down here, so it's back to the big 5. And Johnson takes over the duel. His Deckmaster is Judgeman. Its crazy Deckmaster ability is, during either player's turn, quick effect, pay 1000 life points, banish all monsters the opponent controls, and then deal 500 damage for each of their monsters banished. This Deckmaster ability isn't a 5 out of 5 star Deckmaster ability. It's 6 out of 5 stars. This is a tier 0 Yu-Gi-Oh card that needs to be nerfed in the Deckmaster format. Why? Because it's so broken. Like, think about it for a second. Your opponent goes first. He summons some monsters to the field. You use your ability of your Deckmaster, wipe their field, do 1000 damage. Say they summon 2 monsters. Back to you. Summon monsters, attack them directly. Back to them. They summon monsters to try and establish a board again. Just quick effect, wipe all their monsters again for 1000 life points. You do another 1000 burn damage. Back to you, you attack for game. Like, it's crazy. And I'm also kind of assuming that this quick effect can only be used once per turn as well. So you can't, like, use it. The opponent builds a board again, and then you can use it again in the same turn. There's no reason why I think you can't do this, but I assume it's just a once per turn. But the fact that it wipes everything, it costs nothing. It's 1000 life point cost, and it does burn damage on top of it. It's nuts. I honestly think if Johnson was Yugi tier duelists, he could beat everyone in the in this season. I'm pretty sure he could have. I might actually try and do a video on that. Like, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Optimal play Deckmaster, how would it work? Noah Kaiba, if you want some notes on how to nerf this card, I made notes. So Judgeman's Deckmaster ability, it needs to be nerfed. Get rid of the quick effect, so it has to be activated during your turn when there's nothing going on. Make it destroy all monsters on the field, not just the opponent, so you're susceptible for your monsters being destroyed as well. As well, that means you're also at risk of taking damage from this monster's effect. That way, the judgment is fair, because he's a judge after all. It does make sense because he's a corrupt judge, but still. And as an added bonus as well, I think it should cost 2000 life points. I think that's fair. Anyway, Johnson draws and gets Hysteric Angel. He activates his Deckmaster ability immediately. He pays 1000 life points to banish all monsters the opponent controls. Yugi's Karibo and Mystical Elf are banished. Joey's Alligator Sword and Cyber Harpy Lady are also banished. Yugi and Joey each take 1000 damage since 2 of each of their monsters were banished. Johnson summons his Hysteric Angel to the field. He enters his battle phase and attacks Joey directly. He moves into his main phase 2 and activates Catapult Turtle's effect. He tributes Hysteric Angel to inflict half the tributed monster's attack as damage to the opponent. He chooses Joey. Joey takes 900 damage. Johnson sets his Revenge Sacrifice face down and then activates his Altar of the Mist spell. Altar of the Mist, when activated, remains on the field for 3 turns. It cannot be destroyed by card effects. During the owner's 3rd standby phase, this card sends itself to the grave. Add 1 ritual spell from your deck straight to your hand. Johnson ends his turn. Small but kind of big thing, Catapult Turtle's effect, if it works the same way it does in the real world, which I kind of assume I guess it probably doesn't, but it should be able to tribute itself to deal damage. He could have tributed it to deal damage to Joey and gone for game here, but the way Catapult Turtle works in the anime is the monsters get loaded onto its back and then shot out, so I guess it can't shoot itself out, so I guess it probably doesn't work like that. And maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on Johnson here because, yeah, I guess if he tributed his monster, he loses a 2200 defense monster and gets just absolutely blasted by all the opponents. So yeah, I guess I was being a little bit harsh. No, I wasn't, because he's got that insanely powerful Deckmaster, tribute your monster, eliminate Joey. It's absolutely fine. You go to Yugi's turn. He can summon whatever the hell he wants to summon. You just use the quick effect of your Deckmaster, wipe whatever Yugi has on the field. He can't get anything. You go back to your turn. You attack the game. Obviously, he's got Mirror Force, but you get Jinzo out at that point. It's ridiculous. And alternatively, he could have also switched his Catapult Turtle into attack and attempted to attack Joey directly to go for game. Joey would be forced to bring out his Deckmaster. Then all Johnson would have to do, a replay occurs, cancel the attack, because you're allowed to do that since more monsters have entered the field. Then you just wait until the next opportunity to use your Deckmaster ability to destroy the Flame Swordsman now on the field. It's destroyed and you've eliminated somebody else. I honestly don't think they appreciate how powerful Judgment is. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Rocket Warrior. He summons it to the field. Joey activates his Deckmaster's ability, transferring 1000 of Flame Swordsman's attack to Rocket Warrior. Joey enters his battle phase and uses Rocket Warrior to attack and destroy Catapult Turtle. The play is successful, however Johnson activates his Revenge Sacrifice in response. Since a monster he controls was destroyed by a battle, he can tribute that monster that attacked and then special summon a monster in his hand. Rocket Warrior is tributed. He summons Machine King to the field. Due to its effect, it gains 100 attack for each machine monster on the field. Since there is only one, it gains 100 attack. Joey ends his turn. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. He could use his Deckmaster ability right here, blow up Rocket Warrior, and that's 500 damage. Why doesn't he do it? Now at this point, you're probably saying, wait, Judgment's Deckmaster ability, are you sure it's a quick effect that you can use during the opponent's turn? I feel like you've made that up. That seems like something in the modern day. Like, where's the evidence? He did it! He did it against Joey! In his duel against Joey, he kept doing it during Joey's turn. So it can be used during either turn. It's crazy. This is the most frustrating duel I've ever seen in my entire life. People are just ignoring these broken abilities. Why aren't they doing it? It's fine. It's fine. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws the Rock Spirit. Yugi banishes an Earth-type monster in his grave, Buster Blader, in order to pay the cost to special summon Rock Spirit. He then tributes it to summon his Des Volskalf. Am I saying that right? I hope so. Yugi sets his Mirror Force face down, and then ends his turn. It's back to the big five, and now Nezbitt takes over. Nezbitt! Oh, just leave Johnson on the field! His Deckmaster is Robotic Knight. Its Deckmaster ability is during either player's turn, you can discard any number of machine-type monsters to inflict 500 damage to the opponent for each. In theory, this could be a decent ability in a 4000 life point meta. If you discard enough machine-type monsters, you could win very, very fast. But you kind of need to build your deck around it. Discarding so many machine-type monsters as well is such a huge resource loss as well. This is a costly ability to use, especially when you can just pay 1000 life points to deal the same amount of damage. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to give this 2 out of 5 stars. I think in this duel, it is not very good. And I think even in its own deck, it's not a great ability to have. It's all right. It's just, I think 2 out of 5 stars from me. Nezbitt draws and gets Heavy Storm. He activates it immediately to destroy all spells and traps on the field. Yugi's Mirror Force is destroyed. However, unbeknownst to Nezbitt, since a spell card has been activated, Des Volgath's attack has been increased by 200 thanks to its effect. Nezbitt moves into his battle phase and attacks Des Volgath with Machine King. Embarrassingly, Machine King is destroyed since it was weaker. Due to Des Volgath's second effect, since it destroyed a monster by battle, it deals 500 burn damage to the big five. Nezbitt shamefully ends his turn. As he does, Des Volgath's attack returns to normal. Everything about this turn is just really embarrassing when you look at it, and it's ironic because Nezbitt was the only one to actually beat someone. Embarrassing thing number one, there's a set card on the field. It's obviously a trap. Get Leichter involved in the duel. Your Deckmaster ability isn't doing anything this turn anyway, so why not get someone that could benefit you? That way, you also don't have to waste Heavy Storm, which would have helped a lot more later because they would have been able to use it on their final turn of the duel to destroy 3 set cards that Joey has. But no, just waste it here when you have a Jinzo on hand, sure. Or alternatively, keep Johnson in play. Use his Deckmaster ability to destroy Volscalf, deal 500 damage to Yugi. Use Heavy Storm, and then attack either Yugi or Joey directly. They're going to have to defend with their Deckmaster, but then they lose on their next turn when Johnson uses his Deckmaster ability again. Second huge mistake. Did you miss it? Maybe you did, but Joey Wheeler is sitting there with no monsters and no spell and traps on the field. Attack him! And then he gets eliminated. To be fair, this is explained away in the episode. It's explained by how Nezbitt got tunnel vision wanting to deal with Yugi's set card and then punish him. But that actually does bring up a good point. I think I talked about it in the Yugi and Kaiba versus Loomis and Umbra duel. So obviously, if your teammate's about to be attacked, you can throw your monster in the way of the attack to tank that attack. This always happens with weaker monsters tanking bigger monsters' attack. They always get blown up or something like that. We've never had an example of a stronger monster throwing itself in front of a teammate to defend. So that makes me think if they would have attacked Joey, Yugi could have sent his Volscalf in front of Joey, and then the Volscalf would have took the attack and it would have still destroyed Machine King regardless. So I guess it's not a mistake. They play it off in the episode like it was a mistake, but I wonder if it was just like an anime-ism kind of thing. Regardless of all this, there should be only 2 people involved in the Big Five's duels. That's Leichter and Johnson. Regardless, it's Joey's turn, and he draws Panther Warrior. Unable to go on the attack due to Panther Warrior requiring a tribute to attack, he summons it into defense and then sets his drop-off trap face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Big Shield Gardener. Yugi moves into his battle phase and uses Des Volgath to attack Nezbitt directly. Yugi moves into his main phase too and then summons Big Shield Gardener into defense. Yugi ends his turn. Why won't people use their Deckmasters? We're in a Deckmaster format. Let's go back to Joey's turn. Deckmaster summon Flame Swordsman. Attack directly. Yugi's turn. Deckmaster summon Dark Magician. Volscalf attack directly. Dark Magician attempt to attack directly next. This would be game, so Nezbitt is forced to summon his Robotic Knight to the field. However, it's got 1800 defense as its max stat. Destroy it with Dark Magician, and that should be game. This is something else I do wonder. In this Deckmaster duel, because the Big Five have 5 Deckmasters, do you think that they would have tried to cheat and be like, just because you've destroyed one of our Deckmasters, we don't actually lose. You have to destroy all 5 in order for us to be defeated. I could see them doing something like that, and if it was mentioned in the episode, that would actually be a great defense why Yugi and Joey don't go more offensively, because yeah, then they would be susceptible to having their monsters attacked by bringing theirs out kind of thing. So I guess it's fine, and then that way it makes sense why obviously 5-headed dragon is a combination of all 5 Deckmasters. It's destroyed, so obviously they lose later. So still, that's just me defending the anime. It's back to the Big Five. After that horrific last turn by Nezbitt, Leichter finally takes over the duel. He's going to take over now for the rest of the duel until the Big Five basically merge, but Leichter should be more involved before, and Johnson also would be better off being in play now as well, but we'll talk about it in a second. Leichter's Deckmaster is Jinzo. Its Deckmaster ability is it negates all trap effects the opponent controls and destroys them. This is, of course, a 5 out of 5-star Deckmaster ability. Basically, with this card, you are shutting off 1/3 of the entire game's mechanics from your opponent being able to use. And even better, You aren't like hindered by this. This doesn't stop you from using traps, just the opponent. This should be sitting on the field all the time. It's a passive, it doesn't cost anything. It's crazy good. Crazy good. Leichter draws and gets Pot of Greed. Joey in response activates his drop-off trap, which forces the opponent to discard a card they drew for their draw phase. Unfortunately, a bit of anime shenanigans happens here where the deck master comes out after the draw phase, even though it's come out before the draw phase every single time, meaning Joey wasn't aware Jinzo was the deck master. And so Jinzo negates the effect of drop-off and destroys it. Leichter activates Pot of Greed. This allows him to draw 2 new cards. He gets Gravity Bind and Sebek's Blessing. Since a spell card was activated, Des Volscaf's attack increases. Leichter summons his Injection Fairy Lily to the field. He uses it to attack Yugi's Des Volscaf. As it attacks, its effect activates during the damage step. By paying 2,000 life points, he can increase its attack by 3,000 during that damage step only. Des Volscaf is destroyed. Injection Fairy Lily's attack returns to normal after the battle. Leichter activates his Sebek's Blessing to increase his life points by the battle damage he inflicted from a monster's attack. Leichter sets his Gravity Bind trap face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Jinzo. Leichter immediately activates his Gravity Bind. Now, level 4 or higher monsters can't attack while this card remains on the field. This is fine for Leichter, as Injection Fairy Lily is a level 3, and his own Jinzo doesn't negate his trap effects. However, Joey tributes his Panther Warrior to summon his own Jinzo. Now, while Jinzo is on the field, any trap card activated is negated and then destroyed. As well, on summon, it destroys all trap cards on the opponent's field. Gravity Bind is destroyed. Joey activates his block attack next to switch Injection Fairy Lily into defense. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Injection Fairy Lily. Joey ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Dark Magician Girl. He tributes Big Shield Gardener to summon it. He enters his battle phase and attacks Leichter directly. Yugi ends his turn. For the millionth time, Deckmasters are a thing in this duel, guys. Why don't you use them? Deckmaster summon Dark Magician here, attack for gain. Leichter can summon out his Jinzo, it's too weak, Dark Magician can destroy it. Yugi and Joey win the duel. It's back to Leichter, and he draws 5-headed dragon. The standby phase occurs and Altar of the Mist's effect activates since it's 3 turns later. It sends itself to the grave to add the ritual spell, Dragon Revival Ritual, from their deck straight to their hand. Leichter activates Dragon Revival Ritual. This card is used to ritual summon 5-headed dragon, but you must tribute a dark, earth, fire, water, and wind monster from your field or hand within 5 turns. The Big 5 Deck Master summon all 5 of their Deck Masters to the field and then tribute all 5 of them from the field. Robotic Knight, Fire Attribute, Jinzo, Dark Attribute, Judgeman, Earth Attribute, Deep Sea Warrior, Water Attribute, and Nightmare Penguin, Wind Attribute. Nightmare Penguin being wind actually kind of surprised me. I thought they'd made a mistake and had 2 water monsters, but I guess since it's a bird, it's wind. Kind of makes sense. It's just weird to increase the attack of all water monsters. 5-headed dragon is summoned to the field. Due to Deckmaster mechanics, since 5-headed dragon is a merger/transformation of their original Deckmaster, it becomes the new Deckmaster. 5-headed dragon's ability is, when this card is ritual summoned, destroy all cards your opponent controls. This card cannot attack the turn it is ritual summoned. As well, this card cannot be destroyed by battle with dark, earth, water, fire, or wind monsters. 5-headed dragon destroys all cards on Yugi and Joey's fields. Jinzo and Dark Magician Girl are destroyed. Unable to attack on the turn it's summoned, the Big 5 end their turn by setting a Deal with Dark Ruler face down. Now I assume that the Big 5 summoning all 5 of their Deckmasters to the field so that they contribute them all to summon their new Deckmaster, that has to be like just an anime thing that they did, just like, oh, it's cool to get them all on the field so they contribute them all at the same time, because otherwise, was that in our pocket the whole time? Have I been freaking out this entire duel? When you have the ability to summon all 5 of your Deckmasters to the field at any time or moment, with all 5 of those Deckmaster abilities being live at the same time? There's no way. There's no way, no. No, there's no way. But I'll just throw out there really quickly. If Johnson would have come to the field this turn because there's no spells or traps in the back row or anything, so we don't need to keep Lecter out with Jinzo this time. We could have used Johnson's Judgeman's Deckmaster ability here to blow up those 2 monsters. Instead, there's 500 damage to Joey. Joey doesn't have 500 life points. He loses the duel instantly here. Yugi takes 500 damage. And then after that, we can summon the 5-headed dragon because we need to get over Dark Magician. We can't attack for game with our Deckmaster that way. I think this duel's going to turn me insane. I really do. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Silver Dollar. Joey sets his Knight's title, Silver Dollar, and Gamble Trap face down, and then Deckmaster summons his Flame Swordsman to the field. Joey ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Magical Hats. Yugi Deckmaster summons his Dark Magician to the field. Yugi activates Polymerization, fusing his Deckmaster, Dark Magician, with Joey's Deckmaster, Flame Swordsman, to make Dark Flare Knight. It becomes the new Deckmaster for both Yugi and Joey. Its effect is it can attack during the turn it is fusion summoned, since remember fusion sickness is a thing during Battle City and the Virtual World arc. You take no battle damage from battles involving this monster. When this card is destroyed by a battle and sent to the grave, special summon a Mirage Knight from your hand or deck. Yugi moves into his battle phase and attacks 5-headed dragon. Mirage Knight is destroyed, but no damage is dealt. Yugi and Joey don't automatically lose due to their Deckmaster being destroyed because it floats into a new monster, making that monster the new Deckmaster. Mirage Knight is summoned to the field. Its effect is if it battles, it gains attack equal to the attack of the monster it's battling. At the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked or was attacked, banish this card, then summon its fusion materials from the grave. And so, Mirage Knight attacks 5-headed dragon. It gains attack equal to 5-headed dragons. Since Mirage Knight is a light type monster, 5-headed dragon is destroyed in the battle. However, before damage can be dealt, the Big 5 activate their set trap, a deal with Dark Ruler. Its effect is since a level 8 or higher monster was destroyed, they can pay half their life points, they take no battle damage from that battle, and then Berserk Dragon is summoned to the field from the deck. The Big 5's life points are cut in half, and Berserk Dragon is summoned to the field. Since it's kind of a transformed Deckmaster, Berserk Dragon becomes the new Deckmaster. The only reason I'm a bit funny about this one is because like everything else was like, oh, this monster became something new, or this monster was fused with something new. And even with Mirage Knight, the monster that was the Deckmaster's ability created the new monster. This one, a completely separate trap was like, oh, that got destroyed. That could have been anything, by the way. This trap just summons this completely different monster. So it's like, I don't know. I think their Deckmaster's technically gone, but sure, okay. Berserk Dragon's effect is it can attack up to 4 monsters simultaneously, but during each of its owner's end phases, it loses 500 attack. Following the battle, Mirage Knight banishes itself and resummons Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman to their respective owners' fields. Yugi activates his magical hats to hide Dark Magician under one of the 4 hats. He then uses Dark Magician's Deckmaster ability. By paying 1,000 life points, he reactivates the last spell he used. He uses magical hats again, but this time on Joey's Flame Swordsman. There are now 8 hats on the field with 2 monsters inside. Yugi ends his turn. It's the Big 5's turn, and they draw Spring of Rebirth. The Big 5 move straight into their battle phase and order Berserk Dragon to use all 4 of its attacks on all 4 of their magical hats on Yugi's side of the field. This play makes absolute sense on paper. Yes, attacking one person guarantees that you destroy their Deckmaster. So that's good. Choosing Yugi over Joey as well, in theory makes sense. Yugi's the one that's been making all the big plays this duel, so it's like, yeah, let's get rid of him. So nothing about what they do is wrong, but it's going to cost them. Since Dark Magician is about to be attacked, Joey throws his Flame Swordsman in the way of the attack. He then activates his set trap, Silver Dollar. This card can only be activated when the opponent attacks a monster with 1,000 or less attack. The monster cannot be destroyed by this battle, and you take no battle damage from that battle. Berserk Dragon's final attack hits Flame Swordsman. Since Flame Swordsman has below 1,000 attack, it is not destroyed and no battle damage is dealt. The Big 5 ends their turn. As they do, Berserk Dragon loses 500 attack points. It's Joey's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. He activates his Knight's Title. This card turns a Spellcaster type monster on the field into a Warrior type. He turns Yugi's Dark Magician into a Warrior type. Joey uses his Deckmaster's ability to transfer its remaining attack points to a Warrior type monster on the field. He gives Yugi's Dark Magician all but 100. Joey ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. What it is doesn't matter, as he simply enters his battle phase and orders Dark Magician Knight to attack and destroy Berserk Dragon. Though the big five still have 400 life points left, since their Deckmaster was destroyed, they instantly lose the duel. Yugi and Joey win. Before the duel begins, Kaiba chooses his Kaiser Seahorse as his Deckmaster. Its Deckmaster ability is, during Kaiba's turn, he can summon a light monster with 1 less tribute. A pretty reasonable Deckmaster ability. Now do you want to see what power creep looks like? Or should I say, I make the rules, so I'm going to give myself the most busted Deckmaster in the world. Let's take a look at Noah's Shinato's Arc Deckmaster. Its effect is you can banish all monsters in both players' graveyards from play. Monsters sent to the graveyard after this effect activated are also banished. Monsters banished this way are equipped to this card whilst banished. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, while you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 equipped monster in face-up defense for each face-up attack position monster your opponent controls. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not done yet. Once per each player's turn, you can remove any number of equipped monsters from the game to gain 500 life points for each. When this card is destroyed by battle, special summon Shinato, King of a Higher Plane, from your hand or deck. Technically, I haven't finished talking about its effects because when Shinato of the Higher Plane comes out, it has its own effects, so we'll worry about that bridge when we get to it. But for now, let's jump into the duel. The duel begins and Kaiba goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Giant Germ, Vampire Lord, Ring of Defense, Quick Attack, Dragon's Rage, and Crush Card Virus. Kaiba starts by summoning his Giant Germ to the field. He then sets his Crush Card Virus face down and ends his turn. The plan, if Giant Germ is destroyed, Crush Card will send every monster with 1500 or more attack from Noah's hand and deck to the grave. It will then be unable to be used as long as Crush Card is in the grave. However, that would be too easy. Kaiba will never get this opportunity. It's Noah's turn and he draws. His opening hand consists of Chiron the Mage, Eris, Cyclone Laser, Matter Leveler, Ice Age Panic, and Earth Shaker. Noah summons his Chiron the Mage. He activates its effect, which lets him destroy 1 set card the opponent controls. He destroys Crush Card Virus. Noah moves into his battle phase. He attacks and destroys Giant Germ. Kaiba takes the first damage of the duel. However, Giant Germ's effect activates after being destroyed. It inflicts 500 damage to Noah and then summons another of itself from the deck. With no further plays, Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Slate Warrior. He tributes his Giant Germ to summon Vampire Lord. He uses Vampire Lord to attack Chiron the Mage. It is destroyed, and since Vampire Lord dealt damage, its effect allows Kaiba to declare 1 card type, monster, spell, or trap. Whatever he declares, Noah must send a card of that type from his deck to the grave. Kaiba declares monster, and so Noah sends Giant Soldier of Stone from his deck to the graveyard. Kaiba ends his turn. Completely unrelated, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Cards like Vampire Lord, which let your opponent choose a card to send to the grave. Nowadays, that's a really bad thing, because a lot of monsters have effect in the grave, so your opponent will be like, this is cool, I'll send this monster, this will help me next turn. And unfortunately, it kind of applies for this case. Kaiba has ultimately let Noah send a monster into the grave, which will benefit him later. So in the future, I wouldn't play Vampire Lord. It's back to Noah, and he draws Fisher. He activates it straight away. With this, it destroys the lowest attack monster the opponent controls. Since Kaiba only controls 1 monster, Vampire Lord is destroyed. Noah follows this play by summoning his Eris. With nothing to stop him, Noah attacks directly. He ends his turn by setting Earth Shaker face down. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Ring of Destruction. The standby phase occurs and Vampire Lord's second effect activates. Since it was destroyed via a card effect, it special summons itself during Kaiba's standby phases. And so, Vampire Lord rises again. Kaiba follows this up by summoning his Slate Warrior. He enters his battle phase and attacks Eris with Vampire Lord. However, Noah activates his set Earthshaker. Now, due to this card's effect, Noah declares 2 attributes. The opponent chooses one of those 2, and then destroys all monsters on the field with the chosen type. Noah declares Dark for Vampire Lord, and Wind for Slate Warrior. Despite Vampire Lord having the superior attack, Kaiba cleverly declares Dark. Vampire Lord is destroyed, and Slate Warrior remains on the field. The reason that this was a smart play is because, yet again, Vampire Lord has been destroyed via a card effect, and so it will return back to the field during his next standby phase. Regardless of all this, Kaiba uses his Slate Warrior to attack and destroy Eris. Kaiba ends his turn. Now you might ask, why didn't Kaiba set his Ring of Destruction and Ring of Defense combo here? I don't know. Had he played these 2 cards face down, in 2 more turns, when Kaiba attacks with his Spear Dragon, Noah's going to bring back Vampire Lord. Kaiba could have used Ring of Destruction, destroy Vampire Lord, Noah takes 2,000 damage, and then Spear Dragon could have attacked directly. That all depends on if Shinato's Arc can activate its effect twice in the same battle phase. I don't believe it can, because I guess he'd be declaring the attack, then he could use the effect so it's not another attack declaration. So, yes, Kaiba could have won if he set his Ring of Destruction and Ring of Defense face down right here. Why didn't he? Dunno. It's Noah's turn and he draws Giant Flood. He immediately activates it. And this card is pretty nutty. Due to its effect, both players must send every monster card on their field and every monster card in their hand to the graveyard. Kaiba sends his Slate Warrior from the field, however, as he has no monsters in his hand, he doesn't discard. Noah, with no monsters on the field or in his hand, sends nothing. Following this, Noah activates his Deckmaster's ability. All monsters in the graveyard and all future monsters sent to the grave are now banished and become equipped to Shinato's Arc. This equipping effect is unique as it happens in the banished zone, so just pretend they're equipped to it or banished. What this also means is that Vampire Lord will no longer return to Kaiba's field during his upcoming standby phase. And so, Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Spear Dragon. He summons Spear Dragon and uses it to attack directly. However, Noah activates the second effect of his Deckmaster, which lets him summon one of those equipped banished monsters to the field into defense. He summons back Kaiba's Vampire Lord. Why didn't he summon Giant Soldier of Stone, which has 2,000 defense? No idea. The attack continues. Vampire Lord is destroyed. However, due to Spear Dragon's piercing effect, it deals battle damage still. However, as a result of attacking, it switches itself into defense. Note, this will be the last time I mention it again. Vampire Lord has been destroyed by battle, it's gone back to the grave, and it's been automatically banished. Anytime anything gets sent to the grave for whatever reason, just assume it's been banished and equipped to Noah's Deckmaster. Anyway, Kaiba yet again ends his turn without setting his Ring of Destruction and Ring of Defense face down. It's Noah's turn and he draws Giant Rex. He summons it to the field and attacks the defense position's Spear Dragon. Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it and draws 2 new cards. He gets Different Dimension Dragon and Thunder Dragon. Kaiba starts by activating the effect of his Deckmaster. Now he can summon a light monster with 1 less tribute. With this, he summons his Different Dimension Dragon into defense without a sacrifice. He then sets 3 cards face down: Ring of Destruction, Ring of Defense, and Dragon's Roar. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Noah's turn and he draws Deepest Impact. He activates it straight away, and now due to its effect, all monsters on the field are destroyed, and both players' life points are cut in half. As the effect of this resolves, we see that Different Dimension Dragon wasn't destroyed. This is because its effect makes it immune to destruction by cards that don't specifically target it. Following this play, Noah activates his Ice Age Panic spell. This card can only be activated while he controls no monsters, and with it, he can special summon 1 Earth monster from his deck. He summons Last Tusk Mammoth, whose effect makes it so that the opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving this card. With this in mind, Noah attacks Different Dimension Dragon. If this is successful, Kaiba will take 700 damage, and with only 700 life points left, Kaiba will lose. Luckily, he activates Ring of Destruction, which destroys Last Tusk Mammoth and inflicts the attack points of it to both players. However, since Kaiba has Ring of Defense face down, he activates it to reduce all damage he would take to 0. With no plays left, Noah ends his turn here. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Polymerization. He starts by switching Different Dimension Dragon into attack. He then activates Thunder Dragon's effect by discarding it to the grave. He can add 2 more copies of itself from the deck. Following this, he plays Polymerization, fusing the 2 Thunder Dragons in his hand together to make Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Which, important to note in the anime, is not a Thunder monster. It's a Dragon type. This will become very important later. Kaiba activates Quick Attack. This allows Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon to attack the turn it is summoned. The reason he has to do this is because Battle City rules are sort of applied here. So, fusion summoned monsters can't attack the turn they are summoned. Unless you have Quick Attack. As Kaiba declares an attack on Noah, Noah uses his Deckmaster ability. Since Kaiba controls 2 attack position monsters, he can summon 2 of the banished monsters. However, Kaiba reveals his final card, Dragon's Rage. With this card in play, all Dragon-type monsters can now inflict piercing battle damage for the remainder of the turn. And this is where things get really weird. Despite the fact Noah only has 600 life points left, Kaiba attacks first with his Different Dimension Dragon. Giant Rex is destroyed, and Noah's life points slip to a mere 400. Why didn't Kaiba just attack with the Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon? He would have won straight away. I can only assume one of 2 situations. One, he's checking for any problematic cards. Attack with a weaker monster first, maybe there's something, I mean, there isn't anything, but I guess there could have been. Or 2, maybe he's just BMing. He's just flexing on the opponents. I don't like either one of these answers. I wish he would have just attacked with Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, because now it's going to backfire on him. Before Kaiba can attack for game with Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, Noah summons a mind-controlled Mokuba and places him in between himself and Kaiba. He tells Kaiba to make a choice. Continue the attack and hurt Mokuba, or stop the attack and move closer to defeat. Ultimately, not wanting to risk the safety of Mokuba, Kaiba chooses not to attack, and doesn't win the duel right here. Kaiba reluctantly ends his turn. But hold on one gosh darn minute. Shenanigans. I mean, obviously. But I want to talk about the word hypocrite. The word hypocrite is defined as someone who does something that they have prior criticized someone else for doing. So with that in mind, we have just seen Noah use Mokuba as a hostage to cheese a win. Let's just call this what this is. It's cheating. Now, what does Noah say to Johnson in his duel against Joey?
僕が気づかないとでも思ったの。君の仕組んだイカ様にそんな汚い手でデュエルに勝っても本当の意味でカイバセトの仲間たちを倒したことにはならない。カイバセトを完璧に乗り越えたことにはならないんだ。
So what's all this about? He's robbed Kaiba of the win. Noah won't have achieved an absolute win because he's had to use nefarious tactics to get the win. So, I don't know. It's a weird thing. He gets called out for it, like, at the very end of the duel. Kaiba, honestly, you should have won this duel. But then again, you probably should have attacked with your Thunder Dragon first, or set your Ring of Destruction or Ring of Defense a couple turns ago. So, oh well. Anyway, the duel continues. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Dark Hole. How many field wipe cards does Noah have? My goodness. Noah starts by activating the third effect of his Deckmaster. Now, by permanently removing from the game every monster attached to Shinato's arc, he can increase his life points by 500 for each. Since there are 12 monsters, 2 Giant Germs, 1 Chiron, 1 Aeris, 1 Vampire Lord, 3 Thunder Dragons, 1 Giant Rex, 1 Last Tusk Mammoth, 1 Spear Dragon, and 1 Slate Warrior. After regaining life points, Noah activates his Dark Hole. This destroys all monsters on the field except for Different Dimension Dragon. Now, with Giant Soldier of Stone and Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon sent from the field to the grave, they are now equipped to Shinato's arc. And with no monsters to summon, Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws a mysterious card that will never be seen, it will never be used, and will ultimately get discarded. However, based on Kaiba's reaction, it doesn't look like a good card. Kaiba switches Different Dimension Dragon into defense and ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Gradius. He summons it to the field. Now, finally with Gradius, he can equip the Cyclone Laser and Matter Leveler equip spells he's had since the start of the duel. With these two cards equipped, Gradius gains 300 extra base attack. As well, when it declares an attack against a defense position monster, it will deal piercing battle damage. However, when it does this, it will change its attack to be 100 more than the defense of the monster being attacked. I'll just simplify that right down for you. If Gradius attacks a defense position monster, it'll do 100 damage. Okay? Okay. And so, Gradius attacks Different Dimension Dragon. Kaiba takes 100 damage. Of course, Dimension Dragon isn't destroyed though. Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn and he draws Last Turn. Despite the fact he actually has a win condition in his hand, Kaiba ends his turn. What do I mean he has a win condition in his hand? Well, Yami-Yugi will reveal this later. But basically with Last Turn and Different Dimension Dragon on the field, Kaiba has a monster that is incapable of being destroyed. And so, it's possible Kaiba could have won the duel. But the question then becomes, why didn't he play this card? Well, it's because Kaiba is holding back. Why? Because he needs to get Mokuba unbrainwashed back to his side, and then he can go for game. However, ultimately what we're going to see is Kaiba sacrificing himself so he can get Mokuba back. We'll talk about it when we get to it. It's back to Noah, and he draws Gradius Option. Due to its effect, since he controls Gradius, he can special summon it to the field. With Gradius Option on the field, it gains the original attack and defense of the original Gradius. And not only that, but it gains all the effects of the equip cards attached to it as well. However, if Gradius is removed from the field, this card is destroyed as well. Noah enters his battle phase. He attacks with Gradius and it deals 100 damage. Gradius Option then attacks, dealing another 100 damage. Noah ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and the penultimate turn of his duel. With all of his strength and resolve to save Mokuba, he draws his ace monster, Blue Eyes White Dragon. With this card in hand, Kaiba sets his last turn face down. He activates his Deckmaster's ability to summon Blue Eyes White Dragon with one less tribute. He sacrifices his Different Dimension Dragon in order to summon it. With Blue Eyes on the field, Mokuba returns to his senses and stands by Kaiba's side. Kaiba, free from holding back, unleashes his Blue Eyes White Dragon and orders it to destroy the original Gradius. Since Gradius was destroyed, Gradius Option destroys itself. Kaiba ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and the final turn of his and Kaiba's duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card that will never be seen or used and is basically about to be discarded. Noah activates Shinato's Ark's third Deckmaster ability. He removes all monsters attached to it from the game, and in return gains 500 life points for each. This time there are 5 monsters attached: Giant Soldier of Stone, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, Different Dimension Dragon, Gradius, and Gradius Option. It is here where Kaiba activates his set Last Turn. Both players must now send every card in their hand and on their field to the graveyard apart from one card. Kaiba chooses to keep his Blue Eyes White Dragon, while Noah chooses his Deckmaster, which moves itself to the field. Noah and Kaiba both send their 1 mysterious cards in their hand to the graveyard. Now what will happen is both monsters will battle each other. However, there is no battle damage. Instead, the player whose monster remains alone on the field at the end phase of this turn will win the duel. Any other case results in a draw. Blue Eyes White Dragon proves to be the superior monster. With 2 win conditions met, Noah's Deckmaster being defeated, and when the end of the turn happens, last turn's criteria has been met, this should spell absolute defeat for Noah. However, the final effect of Shinato's Ark kicks in. When it is destroyed, it summons out Shinato, King of a Higher Plane, to the field. Due to the rules of Deckmasters, which I cover quite well in this video here, the new monster becomes the new Deckmaster. And this is me just assuming here, but I guess since it's also called Shinato, this is why Last Turn thinks Shinato is still on the field. It's not. That shouldn't work like that, but This is the anime, remember? Technically, Shinato is still on the field. A second battle occurs. Shinato, king of a higher plane, attacks and destroys Blue Eyes White Dragon. The end phase occurs, and since Blue Eyes is no longer on the field, Noah wins the duel. And as a result, the Kaiba brothers are turned to stone. Now, let's be honest, I've had to jump through a few hoops to explain the shenanigans away there. I do think it was shenanigans. The Deckmaster still being on the field, I think is fine, but that still being a Shinato, even though it's Shinato's arc, I don't know. Let's just assume that it has in its card text, this monster is treated as Shinato's arc or something. I don't know, that's as good as it's gonna get. Regardless, Yugi steps up to the field. Yugi calls Noah out in two different ways, depending on if you watch the dub or the sub. In the dub, he calls him a hypocrite, and rightly so. In the sub, he reveals Kaiba could have won had he not summoned Blue Eyes, and instead used his different dimension dragon, since it can't be destroyed. Now, I don't know if this is a translation error, but winning is a strong word. What I think he meant was he could have got the duel to finish in a draw, because different dimension dragon, it's only got 1400 attacks. So what would have happened is that monster would have stayed on the field regardless of what it battled, and so the duel would have ended with both of the last turn monsters being on the field, and so it would have been a draw, which would have been good. If you wonder why Kaiba didn't do this, it's because he needed to get Blue Eyes on the field to bring Mokuba back to his senses. Essentially, Kaiba purposefully threw the duel to save his brother. Can we fault him for this? I guess we can't. Anyway, Yugi mixes his deck with Kaiba's. He keeps Kaiser Seahorse as his deck master. He retains the same amount of cards Kaiba had in his hand, which was none, and even keeps the life points, so he only has 400. With these conditions met, Noah accepts the duel. However, not before changing his deck to counter Yugi's strategy deck. However, since Yugi's deck is a mix of Kaiba's power deck and his strategy deck, will it be enough? Let's find out. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts. With literally no other options, he summons it in defense and ends his turn. It's back to Noah. If he draws a monster, he wins the duel. However, he fails. Instead, he draws Spring of Rebirth. Noah enters his battle phase and destroys Gazelle with Shinato, king of higher plane. It is here that Noah reveals his deckmaster's first and second abilities. Whenever Shinato battles a defense position monster, the opponent loses half their life points. Following this, the second effect kicks in. Whenever the opponent loses life points, Noah gains that much as well. And so, Yugi's life points decrease, while Noah's increase. Now, I think this is a perfect time to bring up Noah's obsession with gaining life points. It seems to be part of his deck's mechanic. Get loads of life points because he's going to start playing some spirit monsters, so he's not going to have any defenses, so he needs to be able to tank some damage. However, I think there's a thematic reason why he's doing this, because he's trying to bring himself back to life, right? He's trying to enter the real world, so I think gaining life points is kind of symbolic of that. And the ultimate irony of this is his fixation of gaining life points, trying to revive himself, is actually going to be his ultimate downfall. We'll get to that literally at the end of the duel, but keep the life point thing in mind. You'll notice it. It's back to Yugi, and he draws Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. He sets it in face down defense and ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Yatagarasu. If you don't know the really broken ability that this card can do, if Yatagarasu attacks Yugi directly, Yugi can't draw any cards in his next turn, which is very, very bad, and the reason why this card got banned for a very long time. If Yugi's got no cards in his hand, like he does, Yatagarasu attacks, Yugi can't draw in his next turn, so what he'll have to do, he'll have to end his turn. Back to Noah, Yatagarasu attacks, can't draw, end his turn. So it's just a vicious cycle. It's a you can't win situation. So not fun. You can see why it was banned. Anyway, Noah summons it. He attacks first with Shinato. However, it is revealed that Yugi's face down is Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, who can't be destroyed by monsters with 1900 or more attack. Rather annoyed, Noah ends his battle phase. He activates his continuous spell, Spring of Rebirth. Now, every time a monster returns to the hand, Noah gains 500 life points. This is perfect, as Noah is now going to play spirit monsters for the rest of the duel. What's a spirit monster? It's just like a sort of type of monster, which can't be special summoned under any circumstances, and during the end phases, it will return to the hand. So yeah, Noah ends his turn, Yatagarasu returns back to the hand, Noah gains 500 life points, and the turn ends. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws one of Kaiba's cards. Cyberjar. He sets it face down and ends his turn. Weird fact, Yugi makes a note that this is one of Kaiba's cards, so that's why I said it, right? However, the closest we ever see Kaiba using this card throughout the entire franchise is when a computer using his deck played it against him. Kaiba never uses this card, weirdly enough. However, you know what's weird? Yugi actually put this card in his deck during Battle City. We see it right there. There's no point to all this, I just thought it was an interesting fun fact. It's Noah's turn, and he draws another spirit monster, Asura Priest. He summons it and uses it to destroy Obnoxious Celtic Guardian, since its attack is less than 1900. Asura's effect then kicks in. It can attack all monsters the opponent controls once each. And so, Asura attacks Yugi's set card, which is revealed to be Cyberjar. Cyberjar's flip effect then activates. When flipped, it destroys all monsters on the field, and then lets both players draw 5 cards. Then, any level 4 or lower monsters drawn are special summoned to the field. Regardless though, Noah's Deckmaster is about to be destroyed. This would cause him to automatically lose the duel. However, this is where Noah reveals the final Deckmaster ability of Shinato, King of a Higher Plane. Basically, if a card would affect this monster in any way, he can return it back into the Deckmaster's zone. However, luckily, it can't come back to the field now throughout the rest of the duel. So, with Shinato permanently removed from the duel, Asura and Cyberjar are both destroyed. Both players draw 5 new cards. Yugi gets Sangan, Gamma the Magnet Warrior, Dark Magician, Dark Magic Ritual, and Valkyrion the Magna Warrior. Due to Cyberjar's effect, Sangan and Gamma are summoned to the field into defense. Noah also draws 5 new cards. He gets Seebek's Blessing, Otahime, Great Long Nose, Pyro Clock of Destiny, and Yamata Dragon. However, since all the monsters Noah drew were spirit monsters, their effects prevent them from being able to be special summoned to the field. And so, with no further plays, Noah is forced to end his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Swords of Revealing Light. Yugi starts by attributing both the monsters on his field to summon Dark Magician. Since Sangan was sent from the field to the grave, its effect lets Yugi add a monster with 1500 or less attack to his hand from his deck. He adds Big Shield Gardener. Yugi then attacks Noah directly. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Next World. He activates it. Now, by targeting a monster Yugi controls, he can summon a monster of the same level without tributing. He chooses Dark Magician, and so Noah summons out his level 7 Yamata Dragon without any tributes. Noah attacks Dark Magician. It is destroyed. Yugi receives damage, while Noah's life points increase. As Noah ends his turn, Yamata Dragon returns to his hand due to the Spirit Monster effect. However, as it does, Spring of Rebirth increases Noah's life points. Yamata Dragon, do you know what its effect is, by the way? If it deals battle damage, Noah gets to draw until he has 5 cards in his hand. Why does this matter? Well, he had 7 cards in his hand, he played his spell, he summoned Yamata Dragon, so he had 5 cards, so he couldn't draw. But what he could have done is set his Pyro Clock of Destiny face down, set his Seebek's Blessing face down, and then draw 2 cards when he attacks. This meant he would have got to some of his later cards a lot earlier, so it could have made a very different duel. Misplay Noah. Anyway, it's Yugi's turn, and he draws Karibo. Yugi activates his Swords of Revealing Light. Now, Noah can't attack for 3 turns. I bet Yugi wish he activated that last turn now. Oh well, I guess. Yugi summons Karibo in attack and attacks Noah directly. Yugi ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and he draws a second copy of Otohime. He sets one of his Otohimes face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Dark Magician Girl. Yugi could go on the offensive here by summoning Dark Magician Girl. However, he decides it's too risky with how low his life points are. Instead, he makes the defensive play, followed by switching Karibo into defense. Yugi ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Maharaji. He sets his Maharaji face down, along with his Pyro Clock of Destiny. After this, he ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Nutrient Z. He sets it face down and ends his turn. It's back to Noah, and he draws Vessel of Illusion. He activates his set Pyro Clock of Destiny. Due to this card's effect, a turn is skipped, returning back to the same point of Noah's turn. Now, since 3 turns have passed, Swords of Revealing Light ends. Noah flip summons his Otohime. When Otohime is normal or flip summoned, its effect activates, allowing Noah to switch Kuribo into attack position. Noah tributes his 2 monsters to summon Yamata Dragon. Yamata Dragon attacks Kuribo, attempting to go for game, but Yugi activates Nutrient Z. This increases his life points by 4,000, before damage calculation can occur. Kuribo is still destroyed, of course. However, with 4,100 life points, Yugi survives the battle. Since yet again, Noah doesn't have less than 5 cards in his hand, he doesn't draw for Yamata Dragon's effect. What a waste. And despite Noah already gaining life points from his Deckmaster, he chains his quick play spell, Sebek's Blessing. This lets him gain life points equal to the battle damage Yugi just took. As Noah ends his turn, yet again his spirit monster, Yamata Dragon, returns back to his hand. Spring of Rebirth grants him another 500 life points. It's back to Yugi, and he draws Alpha the Magnet Warrior. He summons it into attack, and uses it to attack directly. Yugi ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Inaba White Rabbit. He summons it and immediately enters his battle phase and attacks. Due to Inaba's effect, it can attack directly. The attack is successful. Yugi loses life points, while Noah gains the same amount. As the end phase occurs, Inaba returns back to the hand. Noah gains 500 life points. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Dark Renewal. He sets it face down, and then tributes his Alpha the Magnet Warrior to summon Dark Magician Girl. Since Dark Magician is in his grave, Dark Magician Girl gains 300 attack. Yugi attacks directly with her, and ends his turn. It's back to Noah, and he draws Chaos Barrier Field. He summons back Inaba White Rabbit. However, as he does, Yugi plays Dark Renewal. Now he can send both it and one monster he controls to the grave in order to special summon one spellcaster monster from his deck or grave, in order to summon back his Dark Magician. As he does, Dark Magician Girl's attack returns to normal. Noah sets Chaos Barrier Field face down and ends his turn. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Magician of Black Chaos. He activates Dark Magic Ritual, tributing his Valkyrion the Magna Warrior. He ritual summons Magician of Black Chaos. Yugi attacks. However, Noah activates his set Chaos Barrier Field. This card forces the opponent's highest attack monster on the field to attack the opponent's lowest attack monster on the field, and after doing so, the battle phase ends. It's Noah's turn, and he draws Groundbreaking. Noah sets his second copy of Otohime, along with Vessel of Illusion and Groundbreaking face down. Noah is even so assured of his victory, he shows Yugi the Groundbreaking trap he sets. A silly move for sure, however, ultimately, showing his opponent this card, not going to cost him the duel at all. But what is going to cost him the duel is when he activates it. Let's take a look. It's Yugi's turn, and he draws Card of Destruction. Noah, without any hesitation, immediately activates Groundbreaking, which lets him add one spirit monster back to his hand from the grave. He adds back Inaba White Rabbit. Yugi, knowing he will use that monster to attack him directly on his next turn, activates Card Destruction, which forces both players to discard their entire hands and draw the same amount they discarded. Since Yugi's hand is empty, he discards and draws nothing. While Noah, on the other hand, discards 4 cards. Inaba White Rabbit, Yatagarasu, Great Long Nose, and Yamato Dragon. The 4 new cards he draws are Hino Kagu Tsuchi, Flaming Fist, Spiritual Energy Settle Machine, and one mysterious card that will be discarded during Noah's next end phase. So, my question then becomes, why didn't Noah just wait till his turn? What a weird time to activate a card. Honestly, there's no reasons I can think of why he couldn't have just waited for his turn. So, huge misplay Noah. Had you just waited, you'd have won the duel. Anyway, Yugi moves into his battle phase. He attacks Noah's set monster. It is revealed to be a second copy of Otohime. Since Otohime was flipped face up, its effect switches Dark Magician into defense, preventing Yugi from attacking again. Sad fact for Noah, if he didn't switch Dark Magician to defense here, next turn he's going to draw Change of Heart. He could have used Change of Heart to take control of Yugi's Black Magician of Chaos, use Black Magician of Chaos to attack Dark Magician, and would have won the duel. But he didn't know he was going to draw Change of Heart, so hindsight, right? Following this, Noah activates his face-down Vessel of Illusion. This special summons a spirit token with the same level, type, attribute, attack, and defense as the spirit monster just destroyed. Since it was Otohime, the token only has a mere 100 defense and 0 attack. Yugi ends his turn. It's Noah's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Change of Heart. He activates it and takes control of Dark Magician. Noah tributes Dark Magician and his spirit token to summon his Hinokagu Suchi. He then activates Flaming Fist to increase the attack of Hinokagu Suchi by 200, and it makes it so that if ever it deals damage, Noah's life points increase by 500. With a 3000 attack monster, he attacks and destroys Magician of Black Chaos. Yugi, with only 300 life points left, takes 200 damage and only has 100 life points left. Noah's life points increase from the damage, along with Flaming Fist's effect. Anyway, Noah moves into his main phase 2 and activates his Spiritual Energy Settle Machine. Now, any and all spirit monsters do not have to be returned to the hand during the end phase. However, to keep this card in play, he must discard a card during each of his end phases. Noah ends his turn and discards the mysterious card. It's worth noting, at this point in the duel, Noah has turned all of Yugi's friends into stone. Yugi only has 100 life points left and is pretty much on the verge of giving up. However, through the power of friendship, he prevails and is able to draw the final card of the duel, Card of Sanctity. He activates it. This allows both players to draw until they have 6 cards in their hand. Yugi and Noah both draw 6 cards. Yugi draws Monster Reborn, Polymerization, Blue Eyes White Dragon, another copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Quick Attack, and Defusion. And what does Noah draw? It doesn't matter. It's not going to help him. Yugi goes for his final play. He activates Monster Reborn, bringing back Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon, which was never actually banished since it was destroyed after Shinato's arc left the field. Yugi plays Polymerization to fuse the Blue Eyes on the field with the 2 in his hand to summon out Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Yugi activates Quick Attack to allow Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to attack on the same turn its fusion summoned. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon attacks and destroys Hinokagu Suchi. Yami then uses Defusion to return the 3 Blue Eyes used for this monster's summon back to the field. Now, with a combined 9000 attack, all 3 attack directly. Noah Kaiba loses the duel. The duel begins and Gozaboru goes first. He draws and his opening hand consists of Exodia Necros, Contract with Exodia, Painful Choice, and 3 mysterious cards. These 3 cards and every card that Gozaboru is going to draw now for the rest of this duel are going to be mysterious cards. They will never be seen and will never be used throughout the entirety of this duel, which can only mean that they must have been some level of unplayable that I have never heard of before. They're either all so weak that it's too risky for Gozaboru to put them on the field because his life points can be low throughout the majority of this duel, so they're too weak, don't put them on the field. Or they're too high level and they can never be summoned to the field because he'll never have enough tributes or he doesn't want to tribute his boss monster. What I will say they definitely aren't are more copies of Exodia the Forbidden One, because it's in his best interest to get as many of those cards in the graveyard, and if he had them in his hand, he could set them face down so they'd be destroyed, or there's an opportunity later where he has to discard a card and he could have put an extra Exodia copy in the graveyard if that's the case, but he doesn't, so I think he's just playing with one-ofs of the Exodia cards. But what I'm trying to say is this duel is a gimmick duel. It's basically Kaiba just needs to get over 1 threat. If he does that, he's basically won the duel. So yeah, not the best kind of duel we're going to have, but let's see. Gozaboru starts by activating his Painful Choice. This spell lets him reveal any 5 cards in his deck. Then the opponent picks 1 card among them to add to his hand. The rest are sent to the grave. Gozaboru reveals all 5 pieces of Exodia the Forbidden One. This triggers Kaiba's Exodia PTSD. Kaiba chooses Right Arm of the Forbidden One for Gozaboru to add to his hand. The rest are sent to the grave. Gozaboru sets Right Arm of the Forbidden One face down and ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Vorse Raider, Spirit Ryu, Luster Dragon number 2, Ancient Lamp, Lejin Mystical Genie of the Lamp, and Burst Breath. Kaiba sets his Burst Breath trap face down and then summons Vorse Raider into attack. He enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Gozaboru's set monster. It's revealed to be Exodia's right arm. It's destroyed. Kaiba ends his turn. Now, technically there is an alternative play that Kaiba could have done this first turn, but there's no way he could have known to do it. Had Kaiba deduced that the face down monster was right arm of the Forbidden One, he could have normal summoned his Ancient Lamp, use its effect to special summon Lejin, Ancient Lamp destroy Exodia's right arm, Lejin attack directly, dealing 1800 damage. This means that when Gozaboru uses contract with Exodia in a bit, he'll lose 2000 life points and only have 200 life points left for the rest of this duel. Now, when Kaiba does his shrink play later, this time when he attacks Exodia Necros, the attack wins him the duel. So technically, yes, Kaiba could have won earlier in the duel, but there's no way he could have known to do this really. It's back to Gozaboru, and he draws a mysterious card. With all 5 Exodia pieces in the grave, he activates the ritual spell Contract with Exodia. By paying 2000 life points, while 5 pieces of Exodia are in his grave, he can ritual summon Exodia Necros from his hand. Gozaboru pays 2000 life points to summon the spooky undead version of Exodia. This monster gains the following effects based on what cards are in the grave. If the head of Exodia is in the grave, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. If left leg is in the grave, this card cannot be destroyed by spell cards. If right leg is in the grave, this card cannot be destroyed by trap cards. If left arm is in the grave, this card cannot be destroyed by monster effects. And if right arm is in the grave after this card battles, it gains 1000 attack. And so, with his ultimate monster on the field, Gozaboru goes on the attack. Despite being weaker, he orders Exodia Necros to attack Kaiba's Vorse Raider. Since Vorse Raider is stronger, it's not destroyed in the battle. As well, due to Necros' left arm effect, it is also not destroyed by battle. Gozaboru does, however, take the damage. After the battle, Necros' right arm effect increases its attack by 1000. Gozaboru ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Negate Attack. He summons his Spirit Ryu to the field and then activates his set trap, Earth Breath. By attributing a Dragon-type monster, he can destroy all monsters the opponent controls, whose defense is less than the attack of the monster tributed. Kaiba tributes his Dragon-type Spirit Ryu with 1000 attack. Since Exodia Necros has 0 defense points, it should be destroyed. Unfortunately, however, nothing happens, as right leg of the Forbidden One protects Exodia Necros from trap destruction. Kaiba ends his turn by setting Negate Attack face down and then switching Vorse Raider into defense. As he does, it's revealed over the intercom that the virtual world is about to blow up. So now, Kaiba needs to win the duel as fast as possible.
What are you doing? Hurry and get back here right now before the island blows up with you on it!
Blows up?
It's Gozaboru's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Gozaboru moves straight into his battle phase and orders Exodia Necros to attack Vorse Raider. Kaiba in response activates Negate Attack to stop the attack. Since Exodia Necros didn't battle this turn, it doesn't get an attack boost. Gozaboru ends his turn. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Shrink. Kaiba activates Shrink to halve the attack of Exodia Necros. Kaiba then tributes his Vorse Raider to summon Luster Dragon number 2. He enters his battle phase and attacks Exodia Necros. While aware it won't be destroyed by the battle, he at least still wants to inflict some damage. Gozaboru takes 1000 damage. Unfortunately though, since it did battle again, the right arm effect increases Exodia Necros' attack by 1000. Kaiba ends his turn. As he does, Exodia's attack returns to normal. It's Gozaboru's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Like an old record, Gozaboru moves straight into his battle phase and then immediately orders Exodia Necros to attack and destroy Luster Dragon number 2. Since it battled again, the right arm effect increases Exodia Necros' attack by 1000. Gozaboru, with no other plays, ends his turn here. It's Kaiba's turn, and he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it immediately to draw 2 new cards. He gets Monster Reborn and Soul Demolition. Kaiba sets his Ancient Lamp face down, along with Soul Demolition, and ends his turn. So with that Monster Reborn in hand now, was there anything that Kaiba could have brought back this turn to help him out? Not really. He could have brought back one of the Exodia pieces in the graveyard, but he wouldn't have done anything. What he could have done is save that Dragon's Breath trap till now, along with the Spirit Ryu, and then he could have taken the trap protection Exodia piece out of the grave, and then used the Spirit Ryu play to destroy Exodia Necros. That play would have worked, but you need insane levels of hindsight, and you need to know what Exodia Necros does, and it seems that Kaiba doesn't know what Exodia Necros could do for the majority of his duels. So, no misplay, but technically, yeah, Kaiba could have won here, if he saved all his cards and knew exactly what was about to happen. So, yeah. It's Gozaboru's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. He moves straight into his battle phase and orders Exodia Necros to attack Kaiba's set monster. Ancient Lamp is destroyed. Since Exodia Necros battled, the right arm effect increases his attack again by 1000. With a 5800 attack, Exodia Necros, Gozaboru ends his turn. As he does, while not shown to the audience, but we have to assume he does, he has to discard a card at the end phase here. Because he's got 7 mysterious cards in his hand currently, that is over the hand size limit when you end your turn, so you have to discard one to make it legal. Which I will have to say, 7 mysterious cards and you can't use any of them? It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'll say it now rather than later. Gozaboru had no alternative plays throughout this entire duel because we don't know what's in his hand. I don't know what else he can do. All he has is just a big monster he can just keep attacking with, and that's it. What else can I say? My advice to you, Gozaboru, for future duels, just play some cards that at least let you do piercing battle damage. Just throw a playset of this bad boy in there, and then every time you attack Kaiba's defensive monsters, at least you're doing massive damage. And if you really wanted to, you could also play 2 more copies of Exodia Necros, but if you do that, you will need to play life point gain cards, because 2,000 life points every time you want to summon one. That's a big cost. But having 3 of these on the field that are immune to everything would be pretty damn strong. For a master chess player, you'd think Gozaboru would have more than one strategy. It's Kaiba's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Blue Eyes White Dragon. Kaiba activates Monster Reborn to bring back Ancient Lamp. He then activates Ancient Lamp's effect that allows it to special summon Legend, the mystical genie of the lamp, in his hand. Now, since there is a Fiend-type monster on his field, Kaiba can activate his set trap, Soul Demolition. This card can only be activated while you have a Fiend-type monster on your side of the field. Both players, during their turns, can pay multiples of 500 life points to banish cards in the opponent's graveyard. I know this is a silly thing to complain about, but what a perfect card to draw in this dire situation where getting rid of cards in the graveyard is the right play. It's fine, it's the anime, of course you can do things like that, but it does make you laugh when they draw it perfectly in time. Kaiba, while only really needing to pay 500 life points once to get rid of the attack increase Exodia piece in the grave, decides to teach this old man a lesson. He pays 500 life points 5 times. He banishes left arm, left leg, right arm, right leg, and the head of Exodia from Gozaboru's grave. All of Exodia Necros' protection effects are nullified, and as a result, its attack returns to its original 1800. Kaiba tributes his Ancient Lamp and Legend, the mystical genie of the lamp, to tribute summon his Blue Eyes White Dragon. And so, Kaiba orders his ace monster to attack and destroy both the ghosts of his past. Exodia and his adoptive father are both destroyed. Kaiba wins the duel in just the nick of time, to most of you. He and the rest of the group escape the virtual world, while Noah and Gozaboru are permanently deleted from existence.
That was cool!
And with that, the virtual world arc comes to an end.